Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 21. The Imperial City's Grand Array is broken. The battle between the two sides within the city was particularly fierce, with people constantly falling. The Zenbei king's army outside the city also began its assault, and the defensive Grand Array of Kyoto was crumbling under the attack of catapults. Although the defensive Grand Array of Kyoto was a fourth-level defensive array formation, this array formation had existed for too long, and the great Tang Dynasty had no array formation masters, so it could not be maintained, thus the power of the array formation was greatly reduced. Both sides fought until dawn. The Crown Prince's forces were reduced by almost half, and the Fourth Prince's army of 100,000 was left with only over 50,000 men. After dawn, both sides retreated to the territories they controlled, and the streets of Kyoto were piled high with corpses everywhere. Returning to the Eastern Palace, the Crown Prince and his entourage were almost all wounded. Lu Zong looked at the blood-covered Crown Prince and stepped forward, saying, "Your Highness. This cannot continue. The Zenbei King's army is currently blocked outside the city. We must destroy the defensive Grand Array, otherwise, once the Zhenan King's army arrives, we will surely be defeated." Upon hearing this, the Crown Prince frowned and said, "Does the national teacher have a good plan? Now we can only distribute the medicinal pills. When we have almost recovered, we will split into two groups. One group will attack the Imperial Guard's camp, and the other will go to destroy the defensive Grand Array." After Lu Zong finished speaking, he looked at the 30-odd experts from the Zongren residence and Tai Temple who had not yet acted and said, "Everyone. The task of destroying the Grand Array will trouble you." The person leading the Zongren residence stepped forward and said, "All right. It's time for us old fellows to stretch our muscles." At the same time, in the Fourth Prince's mansion, Wang Yuzhong looked at the Fourth Prince sitting on the chair and said, "Your Highness. When can the Zhenan King arrive? We can only withstand the Crown Prince's last attack at most. The experts from our two great clans have also suffered considerable losses. So far, those experts from the Zongren residence and Tai Temple who support the Crown Prince have not yet made a move. Next, I think they will launch a two-pronged attack, one attacking our array core, and the other assaulting our camp. Our remaining 200,000 troops still need to defend the city walls. If the Zhenan King's army doesn't arrive soon, I'm afraid we will be defeated." Wang Yuzhong was very clear about what it would mean if they failed this time, because once they failed, it would mean death and the destruction of their clan. But if they succeeded, their clan's power would soar. After all, for a pie originally eaten by 8 people, now only 2 people eat it, the effect is completely different. The Fourth Prince looked at Wang Yuzhong before him and said with a smile, "General, rest assured. My maternal grandfather has been rushing towards Kyoto at full speed after receiving the news. The vanguard of 200,000 Zhenan Iron Cavalry is already approaching Hanggu Pass. The infantry is less than 500 li away from Kyoto and will arrive in a few days. We only need to hold out until my maternal grandfather's army arrives." Wang Yuzhong couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief upon hearing this. After the two sides ceased fighting for several hours, the Crown Prince led over 20,000 men directly towards the Imperial Guard's camp, while the experts from the Zongren residence and Tai Temple rushed towards the location of the array core. Reporting to Your Highness. The Crown Prince, leading 20,000 men, has already reached the outside of the camp. Upon hearing this, the Fourth Prince immediately stood up and said, "Good timing. Everyone. Follow Your Highness to meet the enemy." After the Fourth Prince led his army out of the Imperial Guard's camp, he saw the Crown Prince and others leading the way. The Fourth Prince said with a smile, "Imperial brother. Let's decide who is superior today. Haha. Imperial brother. Come on. Let this elder brother see your progress over the years." After speaking, the two men began to fight. In the Prince Chi's mansion attic, Cao Zhengchun stood behind Qin Tian. Qin Tian held binoculars and looked at the two sides fighting fiercely in the distance, couldn't help but sigh, "Tisk tisk. Truly tragic." After a while, a brocade guard ran to Cao Zhengchun's ear and whispered a few words. Cao Zhengchun waved his hand to dismiss him, then came to Qin Tian's side and bowed, saying, "Your Highness. The brocade guard reports. The Zhenan King's army is less than 300 li away from Hanggu Pass. They can reach Kyoto in 2 hours at most. And the Zhenan King's 200,000 iron cavalry are already preparing to cross Hanggu Pass and can reach Kyoto in less than an hour. General Liu asks if they should be stopped. No need. Let them in. This old fellow Zhenan King is fast enough. It's just right for General Liu to secretly send 50,000 men to raid the north and block the Zhenbei King's retreat. As for the remaining 50,000 men, wait until the Zhenan King's army has all entered Hanggu Pass before cutting off their retreat. The brocade guard will fully assist. Blind all the enemy's eyes. Tell Liu Bu that after the battle begins, you tell him to quickly bring the Zhenan King's head to me. Tell him not to slaughter those soldiers, they are all the strength of our great Tang and cannot be wasted by him. Also, later you take some experts to control the imperial palace, especially the Zongren residence and Tai temple. I don't want anyone in the entire imperial city to dare to cause trouble after I make my move. But your highness, your safety. Don't worry about me, the shadow guard will ensure safety. Yes, your highness. Zhang Han. As Qin Tian's voice fell, Zhang Han's figure appeared like a ghost beside Qin Tian. Your general is here. After the battle begins, you quickly bring me the heads of the Zhenbei King and the other generals. Also, notify Dian Wei. Tell him to quickly quell the internal unrest in the imperial city with the Tiger Brave Army and the Brocade Guard. Anyone who dares to cause trouble, kill them all. Your general accepts the order. With Qin Tian's command, many of the ambushing Brocade Guard within the pass began to take action. In the mountains and forests, a Zhenbei King scout responsible for vigilance looked at the mysterious man wearing a flying fish uniform and an embroidery spring blade hanging from his waist who suddenly appeared before him. His pupils couldn't help but contract as he shouted, "Who goes there?" West Liang Brocade Guard. Dao Zan. With a flash of the blade, this scout under the Zhenbei King, who was in the middle stage of Haotian, lay on the ground clutching his neck. His legs began to twitch unconsciously, and blood spurted from his neck, quickly staining the ground red. Dao Zan shook off the blood on his blade and left the spot with a few sideways jumps. This scene constantly occurred in the areas surrounding the imperial city, with countless scouts lying weakly on the ground, losing their lives. Boom. After the two sides fiercely fought for half to nearly an hour, the city defending Grand Array was finally breached by the experts from the Tai Temple and Zongren residence. However, just at this moment, the Zhenan King's Zhenan Iron Cavalry finally arrived at the battlefield. Reporting to the Zhenbei King. The 200,000 Zhenan Iron Cavalry led by Su Bingwu, the third son of the Zhenan King, are less than 20 li away from the vanguard. Upon hearing this, the Zhenbei King laughed, "Ha ha. Good timing. I've long heard that the Zhenan Iron Cavalry is invincible in the world. Today, your majesty will see whether their Zhenan Iron Cavalry is formidable or our Zhenbei Iron Cavalry is formidable. My lads, who is willing to be the vanguard? Father King. Your subject is willing to go." The Zhenbei King's adopted son rode forward on his horse. The Zhenbei King looked at his son and laughed, "Ha ha. Good. Then let my son Dongwu lead 80,000 Zhenbei Iron Cavalry as the vanguard. The rear army will follow shortly. Your subject accepts the order. Order. Dong Ming, seize the time to capture the imperial city. Dong Xianying will lead 200,000 Zhenbei Iron Cavalry as the rear army to support Dong Wu. Your general accepts the order. Chapter 22 Closing the Net. After the imperial city's defensive formation was broken, the imperial guards began to bare their fangs. Countless crossbow bolts rained down on the Zhenbei army. Zhao Yu, the Grand Commandant in charge of the Imperial Guards, ordered a relentless barrage against the Zhenbei army below the city. The demon-breaking ballistas, which could force even Grandmaster realm experts to retreat from the city walls, began to show their might. Countless bolts shot into the Zhenbei army, skewering numerous soldiers. However, the Zhenbei army was not to be trifled with, they quickly retaliated. Countless bolts were fired back at the imperial city walls, taking individual lives. The 80,000 cavalry of the Zhenbei army seized the opportunity while the 200,000 Zhenan Iron Cavalry had not yet stabilized their formation and charged at them. Su Bingwu looked at the charging Zhenbei Iron Cavalry, hardened his heart, and launched a counter-charge against them. The two sides quickly clashed. After several charges, the Zhenbei Iron Cavalry, having the advantage of the first move, gained a considerable edge. Seeing that the Zhenan Iron Cavalry's formation was gradually stabilizing, Dongwu quickly withdrew and regrouped with the rear army. Although the Xianbei Iron Cavalry had the advantage of the first move in this battle, the Zhenan Iron Cavalry had years of experience fighting the 10,000 Demon Kingdom in the south, making them extremely seasoned in combat. Therefore, the losses incurred in this battle were not very significant for either side. The Zhenan Iron Cavalry lost 20,000 men, while the Xianbei Iron Cavalry lost 13,000. The two sides fought to a near stalemate. This showed that the Zhenan Iron Cavalry's reputation as invincible was not mere boasting. If any other army had been subjected to such an assault by the Xianbei Iron Cavalry, they would have long since collapsed into disarray, with any thought of organizing combat effectiveness being out of the question. Su Bingwu saw that the Xianbei army's rear army had also arrived and could only suppress his anger, beginning to face off against the opposing side. He knew that if a real fight broke out, his side would not gain any advantage. This was because the other side had the support of hundreds of thousands of troops outside the city. Although he had confidence in his Zhenan Iron Cavalry, it was not blind confidence. Su Bingwu clearly understood that he needed to be on guard now, not the other side. Soon, both sides fell into a stalemate. The army outside the city continued their frantic assault, and the fighting within the city had also come to an end. Returning to his large camp, the fourth prince was overjoyed as he looked at the battle report submitted by his subordinates. After the battle just now, his 10,000-strong army was now reduced to only 20,000, and including the aristocratic family's forces, it barely reached 30,000. The crown prince's side had less than 12,000 men, but those remaining were all elites. Excellent. General. My maternal grandfather's 200,000 Zhenan Iron Cavalry have arrived below the city. Wang Yuzhong smiled upon hearing this and said, "That's great. However, Your Highness, both sides are now in a stalemate. If we can get the help of Qi Wang, we will definitely be able to defeat the crown prince." Impossible. Sixth brother's 100,000 Ziliang Iron Cavalry have remained inactive. His attitude is already very clear, we won't be able to persuade him. I'm starting to worry if he might stab us in the back. Your Highness can rest assured on that point. We now have hundreds of thousands of troops outside the city. Qi Wang currently has less than 10,000 men under his command, so we have absolutely nothing to worry about. Moreover, once Zhenan King arrives, we will be able to control the entire Kyoto immediately with our combined efforts from inside and outside. However, the current problem is that Xianbei King has a large army and numerous experts under his command. I wonder if Zhenan King can break through Xianbei King's layers of encirclement. The fourth prince fell silent upon hearing this. At the crown prince's mansion, the crown prince and the experts from the other 5 great families, including Lu Zong, were gathered. Crown Prince. The Zhenan King's army has already crossed Hanggu Pass. The current situation is becoming increasingly complex. The Crown Prince smiled upon hearing this and said, "National teacher, don't worry. After being disrupted by the Hawk Scouts, the Zhenan King's army's strength is not what it used to be. Furthermore, Xianbei King has many soldiers and generals, so the outcome is still uncertain." At Prince Qi's mansion, Qin Tian was resting his head on Zhang Suyu's beautiful legs, eating grapes handed to him by Xiao Kui, feeling incredibly content. Just then, a brocade guard ran up to Qin Tian and knelt down, saying, "Reporting, Your Highness. The Zhenan King has completely crossed Hanggu Pass. General Lu's troops have also completed the encirclement as planned beforehand." Qin Tian immediately jumped up upon hearing this and said, "Let's start." "Yes, Your Highness." As a signal flare ascended, the brocade guards hidden in the Kyoto also began to take action. Many subordinate generals in the Imperial Guards pulled out daggers and began to backstab their superiors. Suddenly, many brocade guards wearing flying fish uniforms appeared in the streets and alleys, and the Shadow Guards' assassinations were also ongoing. In the military tent, Xianbei King was lost in thought, looking at the map around the imperial city. The next second, a flash of a blade was seen, and Xianbei King's head rolled down. Zhang Han killed the Xianbei King, a generation's military god who had reached the early stage of the Po-Shu realm, as easily as slaughtering a pig. Zhang Han picked up Xianbei King's head and walked out of the tent. Soon after, dozens of Grandmaster Realm Shadow Guards also disappeared from the military camp with several heads. Shortly after Zhang Han and the others disappeared, 5 Poshu realm subordinate generals under Lu Bu's command led 50,000 troops in 5 separate routes and began to assault the Zhenbei king's formation. The rebel general has been executed. Those who surrender will not be killed. Zhang Han watched the 50,000 Ziliang iron cavalry below charge into the enemy formation like wolves entering a pack, harvesting the Zhenbei army's infantry on a large scale, and couldn't help but exclaim. He was truly afraid that these Ziliang iron cavalry would go berserk and slaughter these hundreds of thousands of troops. Zhang Han never doubted their combat effectiveness. It was truly not a difficult task for these 50,000 Ziliang iron cavalry, whose strength was at least at the innate level, to slaughter these hundreds of thousands of troops, most of whom were only second or third rate in strength. The soldiers of the Zhenbei army were already terrified by these 50,000 Ziliang iron cavalry. Now, seeing the heads of dozens of their main generals hanging in the air, they began to surrender one after another. Lu Bu looked at the Zhenan king's army before him, his eyes filled with unconcealed excitement. Having followed Qin Tian for so long, this was his first time going into battle. Having endured for a long time, he finally had an opportunity to perform. Lu Bu looked directly at the Zhenan king's central army, leapt from his horse, and roared, "Celestial demon chaos!" A black dragon over 300 meters long descended from the sky, charging into the Zhenan king's army. Zhenan king and the other deputy generals were almost scared to death upon seeing this. Zhenan king roared, "Dan Yuan realm. No. This aura is already comparable to the Di Yuan realm. All troops, form a formation." Following Zhenan king's loud roar, a barrier enveloped the entire army. Lu Bu saw this and a contemptuous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He simply pointed his index finger slightly, and the seemingly indestructible protective shield directly shattered. Zhenan king immediately suffered a backlash and spat out blood. Seeing this, Lu Bu charged forward directly to Zhenan king's side. With a sweep of his Fang Tian halberd, Zhenan king's head was cut off by Lu Bu. Seeing this, Zhenan king's adopted sons shouted, "Avenge the Zhenan king!" Looking at Zhenan king's adopted sons leading their troops to attack him, Lu Bu coldly snorted, "HMPH. Seeking death." Immediately, the Fang Tian halberd in Lu Bu's hand swept horizontally. Zhenan king's personal guards and adopted sons were all cut in half at the waist. 3,000 troops were all killed with a single strike from Lu Bu. Lu Bu lifted Zhenan king's head and flew into the air, roaring, "Surrender or die. Zhenan king is dead." Zhenan king's death caused chaos in the army's morale. Seeing this, the remaining Zhenan soldiers threw down their weapons one after another and began to surrender. Lu Bu's 50,000 Ziliang iron cavalry quickly took control of these hundreds of thousands of troops. Chapter 23. Quelling the Rebellion in the Imperial City. In the Imperial City, Dian Wei led the Tiger Brave army and 3,000 brocade guards as they charged out of Prince Qi's mansion. The strength of the Tiger Brave army under Dian Wei was around the Grandmaster realm, and the brocade guards brought by Qin Tian all had cultivation above the innate realm, so Qin Tian wasn't worried at all about whether Dian Wei could take control of the entire imperial city. Before long, Dian Wei led the troops to rendezvous with the brocade guards who had previously infiltrated the imperial city, and the size of the force instantly expanded to 30,000 people. Before Qin Tian arrived in Kyoto, the brocade guards had already heavily infiltrated Kyoto and were on standby. The sudden increase of tens of thousands of transient people in the imperial city, which had a population of several million, did not attract the attention of the court's scouts. Arriving at the imperial palace gate, Dian Wei looked at the towering city walls before him and said, "Chu Yu. Your general is here. You take 10,000 brocade guards and 100 Tiger Brave army soldiers to assist Chief Eunuch Cao in taking control of the imperial palace. Those who dare to resist will be killed without mercy." Understood. Chu Yu was a Baihu in the Tiger Brave army, whose cultivation had reached the mid-stage of the Poshu realm. His combat power was extremely formidable, and he was the only lieutenant in the entire army who could withstand 3 moves from Dian Wei. "The rest of you, follow me first to pacify the Imperial Guard's barracks." Yes. Chu Yu's actions were very swift. He took control of the entire imperial palace with little effort, and the Zongren residents and Tai temple uncharacteristically did not interfere. Because of the deterrence from the Zongren residents and Tai temple, the palace was relatively calm at this time, and no one dared to act rashly. The more people understood, the more they knew the terror of the Zongren residents and Tai temple. Reporting to Crown Prince. General Dian Wei from Prince Qi's mansion is leading troops and killing their way over. Upon hearing this, the Crown Prince immediately stood up and said loudly, "What? How many people have come? There are about 20,000 people. Moreover, there are more than 10 Po Shu realm experts among them." The aura of the leading General Dian Wei is far stronger than those Po Shu realm experts. Danyuan realm. Upon hearing this, Lu Zong's lips turned pale, and he collapsed onto a chair. The others, hearing Lu Zong's words, also lowered their heads one after another. They knew they were finished. A single Danyuan realm expert was enough to wipe out everyone present with one palm. A sense of despair instantly permeated the hearts of the crowd. All the people from the 8 great clans appeared somewhat listless. The next second, even more despairing news arrived. A soldier covered in blood ran to the Crown Prince, knelt down, and said, reporting to Crown Prince. The heads of Zhenbei King and Zhenan King have been cut off by the enemy general. Now all the armies, including the imperial guards on the city walls, have been completely controlled by Qi Wang. Upon hearing this, the Crown Prince's head buzzed, his legs went soft, and he sat directly on the ground. The people from the 8 great clans also turned ashen-faced. Lu Zong looked at the Crown Prince and said, "Crown Prince. Before they get here, let's quickly escape." The Crown Prince looked at Lu Zong before him, waved his hand, and said, "You guys go. Don't worry about me." Seeing this, the people from the 8 great clans no longer hesitated and turned to prepare to leave. Haha. Still here. Don't be in such a hurry to leave, everyone. This battle you fought destroyed a lot of buildings in Kyoto, and countless civilians were killed or injured. Now you just want to pack up and leave. If that's the case, Your Highness, King Qi, will be very angry. The Tiger Brave army behind Dian Wei carried hundreds of bloody heads in their hands. The 4th prince was tied up and thrown on the ground, struggling non-stop. After seeing the heads in Dian Wei's hands, Lu Zong and the others' pupils contracted. This was because the heads Dian Wei and the others were holding belonged to their family's Po Shu realm old ancestors. Seeing this, Lu Zong and his party directly gave up the desire to struggle. Even Po Shu realm martial artists had fallen into the hands of Dian Wei and the others, let alone them. Looking at the people who had given up struggling, Dian Wei waved his hand and said, "Boring. Kill everyone except the Crown Prince. Seeing them is annoying." Seeing this, the Tiger Brave army soldiers all stepped forward and began the slaughter. The Grandmaster realm martial artists from the 8 great clans were like little chicks in their hands, letting them butcher them as they pleased. "No. Don't come over. We are people from the Tai Temple and Zongren residence. We are members of the imperial family. Don't come over." More than 30 Grandmaster realm experts from the Tai Temple and Zongren residence watched as the Tiger Brave army experts, holding dripping blades, slowly approached, and couldn't help but shout, trying to use their identities to scare the Tiger Brave army experts. However, the Tiger Brave army experts ignored them. A group of Grandmaster realm experts whose cultivation techniques were only profound rank were no match for the Tiger Brave army who cultivated earth rank techniques. Before long, the nearly 100 Grandmaster realm experts present were all slaughtered. Meanwhile, inside Prince Qi's mansion, Guo Rui brought a group of experts from Tianwang to Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked at Guo Rui and smiled. "Guo Zongguan, is there something you need, bringing people to my Prince Qi's mansion?" Guo Rui looked at Qin Tian, who was lying on a rocking chair before him, bowed, and said, "Reporting to Your Highness. This is His Majesty's last will. Please take a look." After receiving the imperial decree, Qin Tian looked at the content and examined it slightly before saying, "This Tianwang." Guo Rui took out a tiger tally from behind him and walked to Qin Tian. Then, he knelt down and handed the tiger tally to Qin Tian, saying, "Your Highness. This is the tiger tally that commands Tianwang. Tianwang is an intelligence organization personally established by the late emperor, similar to the brocade guard in your hands. Tianwang only obeys His Majesty. Now the late emperor has given the tiger tally to you. From now on, Tianwang will be a sharp blade in your hands." Tianwang was established earlier than the Brocade Guard, and its strength was no less than the Brocade Guard. Moreover, because it was established earlier, its intelligence network had already spread throughout the surrounding several dynasties. And this was what Qin Tian currently lacked the most. The Brocade Guard's intelligence network was currently only distributed within the territory of the Great Tang Dynasty, and its control over the intelligence of surrounding countries was still very lacking. After Qin Tian accepted the Tiger Tally, he stood up and helped Guo Rui up, saying, "Guo Zongguan, you've worked hard. After your majesty ascends the throne, I will arrange for you to enter the Tai Temple. Before that, I'll trouble you to take charge of Tianwang for me." Upon hearing this, Guo Rui bowed and said, "Serving your highness is this old servant's duty. No matter how hard it is, this old servant will gladly bear it." Seeing Guo Rui, whose cultivation had reached the peak of the Po Shu realm, flattering him, Qin Tian, as a modern person, was still a little unaccustomed, but he couldn't help but feel secretly pleased in his heart. After giving some instructions, Guo Rui left Prince Qi's mansion. After Guo Rui walked out of Prince Qi's mansion, he wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and looked back with lingering fear. Just now, he had sensed several terrifying auras inside Prince Qi's mansion simultaneously locking onto him, as if his head would fall the next second if he dared to make any unnecessary movement. Seeing Guo Rui covered in sweat, the several Grandmaster realm eunuchs behind Guo Rui asked, "Guo Zongguan, what's wrong?" Upon hearing this, Guo Rui turned around and shouted, "Shut up. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, be careful your heads aren't safe." Upon hearing this, the several eunuchs couldn't help but shiver. As Grandmaster realm martial artists, they couldn't sense the auras of the several Po Shu realm shadow guards hidden in the dark, so they couldn't understand why Guo Rui was now drenched in sweat and leaving Prince Qi's mansion in a hurry. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 24 The Clan House came to visit. After taking control of the entire imperial city, the great generals under Qin Tian's command also gathered at Prince Qi's mansion. Liu Biyu stepped forward and said, "Your Highness. The armies of Zhenan King and Zhenbei King are now completely under our control. The scoundrels who dared to resist have been beheaded and displayed by your general." "Very good. General Liu, you have worked hard. It is your general's duty to exert his utmost for your highness, your general dare not speak of hardship." Qin Tian looked at the Liu Biyu before him with great satisfaction. Dian Wei, seeing Qin Tian pleased, stepped forward and said, "Your highness. The crown prince and fourth prince have also been captured alive by your general. Now, the 200,000 imperial guards are all under your general's control. Your highness, should the crown prince and fourth prince be brought forward? General Dian has also worked hard. Keep the two of them confined for now, this matter will be discussed later." "Yes, your highness." Cao Zhengchun stepped forward and said, "Reporting to your highness. The imperial palace is now completely under this old servant's control. Consort Yin and Empress your majesty have all been apprehended. All personnel involved in poisoning the consort have been taken down by this old servant. They are all imprisoned in Tian prison awaiting your highness's further instructions. The 8 great clans involved in the rebellion have all been executed." Qin Tian's heart was actually quite complicated upon hearing Cao Zhengchun's words. After all, no matter what, the identities of these two people were somewhat special. After all, no matter what, they were the women of his conveniently old dad. Qin Tian did not lack love in his previous life, his family was very harmonious, so he valued his relatives greatly. However, this was not his previous life, this was a naked world full of the law of the jungle, so there were some things he had to do. Chief Eunuch Cao. This old servant is here. Prepare the carriage. Escort the crown prince and fourth prince to Tian prison. Yes, your highness. At this moment in Tian prison, the empress and consort Zhao were confined together in one cell. The empress looked at consort Zhao before her and smiled, "Sister. In the past, the two of us always fought and schemed against each other, who would have thought? Today, we are locked up in the same cell. Just the day before, we were still enjoying endless glory and wealth, who would have thought today we would be trapped in Tian prison?" Consort Zhao heard this and smiled, "Sister. Isn't the imperial palace just like this? Today you might still be living in luxury, tomorrow you might be imprisoned. Moreover, from the moment we stepped into this imperial palace, didn't we already prepare ourselves to face all of this? The empress heard this and smiled. Who would have thought? I actually don't have sister's broad-mindedness. It's just that my imperial son has suffered. Sister. Since ancient times, the winner is king, and the loser is vanquished. No loser has ever had a good end. Back then, we could plot against the sixth prince's mother and sister. Today this sixth prince can use the same method to deal with us. This is just the cause I planted before, now we are just reaping our evil fruit. Ha ha. Well said. Who would have thought Consort Zhao actually possesses such magnanimity? Hearing Qin Tian's voice, Consort Zhao and the Empress both turned their heads to look at Qin Tian. The Empress gritted her teeth and looked at Qin Tian, saying, "Sixth Prince Qin Tian. I really didn't expect it. We would ultimately lose to you." Upon hearing this, Qin Tian merely smiled faintly, waved his hand, and had the guards bring up the crown prince and fourth prince. Looking at the two unconscious figures covered in blood, the Empress and Consort Zhao simultaneously cried out, "Imperial son." Qin Tian gave the guards a look, signaling them to bring the people in. The Empress and Consort Zhao both caught their sons. Qin Tian looked at the scene before him, shook his head, and said, "Do you have any other requests? I will try my best to fulfill them." The Empress looked at Qin Tian and shouted, "You beast! If I had known, I should have strangled you back then." Dian Wei behind Qin Tian heard this and immediately became furious, shouting, "Vile woman! How dare you insult my Your Highness? You are simply seeking death. Dian Wei! Do not be rude." Dian Wei's powerful aura directly caused the Empress to vomit blood. If Qin Tian hadn't stopped him, the Empress would have been shaken to death by this aura long ago. "Consort Zhao, do you have any requests?" Consort Zhao looked up at Qin Tian and smiled, "None. Your Highness allowing this subject and concubine to see our mother and son one last time in the final moments is already something I am very grateful for. I just want to die a bit more gracefully." Even though Qin Tian could be considered someone who had seen many great storms, at this moment, he couldn't help but admire Consort Zhao. It was the first time he had seen someone so calm in the face of death. Just as Qin Tian was about to speak, a loud shout from outside Tian prison interrupted him. "Qi Wang. The Zongren residence is here. Why aren't you quickly coming to pay respects?" Qin Tian was so angered by this Zongren residence that he laughed. So, the Zongren residents had such arrogant tones. But that's right, even the late Emperor Qin Zheng had to show them 3 points of respect when he was alive. After all, most of the people inside were ancestors of the great Tang imperial family, and they were all imperial family descendants who had failed in power struggles but had good talent. The accounts with the Zongren residents and Tai Temple hadn't been settled yet, but now they were so eager to walk right into the muzzle. Qin Tian was very curious about what nonsense they were going to spout. He stopped Dian Wei, who was about to go berserk beside him, and Qin Tian led everyone out of Tian prison. Qin Tian walked out of Tian prison and looked at the 19 Po Shu realm experts suspended in the air before him, and the 70 to 80 Grandmaster realm experts standing not far behind them. Good heavens! The Zongren residence has come out in full force. If you add those dead eunuchs from Tai Temple, then the strength of the Great Tang imperial family is truly enough to sweep across the entire Great Tang. Qin Tian looked at the 19 elders of Tai Temple suspended in the sky. The leader was the clan leader, who possessed the cultivation of the peak of the Po Shu realm, and there were quite a few people at the peak of the Po Shu realm, a full 4 of them. Qin Tian looked at the leading clan leader and smiled. "You people from the Zongren residence aren't properly managing the family tree within the Zongren residence, what are you running out for?" 3 elders looked at Qin Tian's frivolous appearance and shouted, "Presumptuous! Qin Tian, you show no respect for your elders. Do you believe I will strip your name from the family tree, making you unable to obtain the recognition of the imperial family's destiny?" Good heavens! Qin Tian finally understood why the people from the Zongren residence were so arrogant, so it was because of this. Once you cannot obtain the recognition of the imperial family's destiny, then you cannot inherit the throne, which is the dragon vein. If you insist on sitting on the throne, it will inevitably bring about a heavenly punishment. However, Qin Tian could also directly abolish the original imperial family's dragon vein and cultivate a new one. Cultivating a new dragon vein would consume a large amount of resources, but that was acceptable. It would also take a lot of time to cultivate a new dragon vein. What Qin Tian lacked most right now was time. Moreover, once the imperial family's destiny dissipates, the spiritual energy content of the entire dynasty will plummet. Therefore, cultivating a new dragon vein is not worth the loss. However, this alone couldn't control Qin Tian. If he was pushed too hard, Qin Tian would just slaughter all these people in front of him. Isn't it just a dragon vein? With the system present, isn't it a matter of minutes? Qin Tian stepped forward, picked at his ear, and said, "What? Say that again. I didn't hear clearly." Just as Qin Tian was showing off, the system directly popped out. Chapter 25. Cleaning up the Imperial Clan House. Ding. Friendly reminder. Cultivating a new dragon vein requires 100 million mid-grade spiritual stone. Does the host need to replace it? Qin Tian looked at the string of zeros in front of him and almost bit off his tongue. Good heavens. 100 million mid-grade spiritual stone was worth 1 billion low-grade spirit stones. He didn't expect this dog system, which was usually so aloof, to pull something like this on him at a critical moment. And its heart was as dark as ever. Ding. Please select whether the host needs to replace it. Replace your head. This old man has worked so hard for so many years. No, he has made 3 small targets of low-grade spirit stones by doing business with the beastman. This is 10 small targets. Even if he sold his wife, he couldn't afford it. Qin Tian directly clicked the denial button. What a joke. Wasn't this free 10 small targets fragrant? Seeing Qin Tian's arrogant appearance, 3 elders immediately couldn't help himself. He stepped forward and said, "Qin." Before 3 elders could finish speaking, a black light flashed, and his head instantly disappeared. A headless corpse fell from the air to the ground, its limbs twitching incessantly. Next to Qin Tian appeared a Poshu realm shadow guard holding 3 elders as head. 2 elders, who had the best relationship with 3 elders, saw this and pointed at Qin Tian, just about to curse, when a strange short blade sliced past his neck. 3 elders also turned into a headless corpse, falling neatly beside 2 elders. The people of the Zongren residence instantly became quiet as Handan, not daring to say any unnecessary nonsense. Great Elder and the clan leader of the Zongren residence, who were standing at the very front, were sweating profusely. At this moment, their hearts were already in turmoil. One must know that when Qin Tian's assassin cut off the heads of 2 elders and 3 elders just now, they couldn't sense any aura. This meant that as long as Qin Tian was willing, he could cut off their heads at any time. Therefore, at this moment, Great Elder and the clan leader stood still in the air, not daring to move, not even daring to blink, for fear that Qin Tian would strike them after they blinked. After all, although they had lived for so long, they were not tired of living. If possible, they still wanted to live for another 500 years. Qin Tian looked at the quiet crowd and couldn't help but slightly curl his lips. It seemed that these old guys were all afraid of death. He thought there were a few stubborn ones who weren't afraid of death. No, there really were. Weren't 3 elders and 2 elders, those 2 old fools, not afraid of death? Qin Tian stepped forward, looked at the people of the Zongren residence, and said, "Speak. Why are you looking for me? Do you just want to simply accumulate battle achievements for my subordinates? Then I thank you all for your kindness." After Qin Tian finished speaking, he raised his hand, just about to wave it down, when the clan leader and great elder hurriedly shouted, "Wait." The clan leader and great elder hurriedly stopped Qin Tian when they saw this fierce guy raise his hand, because at the moment Qin Tian raised his hand. As Poshu realm experts, they could clearly feel that the air around their necks had become much colder. They had no doubt about the truthfulness of Qin Tian's words. After all, 2 elders and 3 elders, who were lying neatly on the ground, were proving that this fierce guy in front of them really dared to kill people. If 2 elders and 3 elders were to rise from the dead at this moment, they would definitely point at Qin Tian's nose and curse, "You fierce guy. Do you have to be beheaded even when you're showing off?" Qin Tian looked at the dozen or so people who were still floating in the sky and said, "Dian Wei. My neck is tired." Dian Wei immediately stepped forward and cupped his fists, saying, "Understood." Immediately after, a powerful aura rushed out, and the dozen or so Zongren residence elders floating in the air were directly pressed to the ground, unable to move. After more than 10 seconds, Dian Wei withdrew his pressure and retreated behind Qin Tian. Although the clan leader and great elder knew that there were Dan Yuan realm existences beside Qin Tian before, they didn't care, because without them, Qin Tian couldn't ascend the throne. Therefore, they were also very impolite to Qin Tian before. However, after Qin Tian's few moves, they all cowered. So, even though they were treated like this, they dared not be angry and dared not speak. After all, it's better to live a miserable life than to die, isn't it? Qin Tian looked at the dozen or so people in front of him and said, just say it directly. What are you here for? The clan leader wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, we are here to escort the fourth prince and the crown prince into the Zongren residence. When a prince commits a crime, it should be handled by our Zongren residents. This is a rule passed down from our ancestors. All previous emperors had to abide by this rule. Qin Tian walked forward with his sword, then placed the sword on the clan leader's neck and said, what did I just say your Zongren residence does? The clan leader looked at the cold, sharp sword on his neck and couldn't help but swallow, saying, manage the family tree. Qin Tian nodded when he heard this and said, very good. From today onwards, only I will have the final say in this world. There will only be one voice in this world. And that is me. Do you understand? Understood. I know why you want to take the crown prince and the fourth prince away. Now tell me, how should a prince who rebels be dealt with? Their crime is punishable by death. Qin Tian heard this, withdrew the sword from the clan leader's neck, and said, very good. Then let's do as you say. The crown prince and the fourth prince are handed over to you. If I am not satisfied with the result, then I don't mind sending you old guys to see my father emperor. The clan leader wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said, please rest assured, your highness. This old man will definitely handle this matter properly. Qin Tian glanced at the clan leader and said, I hope so. Go. After Qin Tian led his people away, the clan leader and great elder collapsed to the ground. Great elder gasped for breath and said, clan leader, this Qi Wang is not simple. Our good days are about to end. The clan leader recovered his breath, stood up, and said, do you still need me to tell you? Hurry back and discuss countermeasures with those few dead eunuchs in the Tai temple. After returning to Prince Qi's mansion, Qin Tian began to arrange related matters. Qin Tian sat at the table and began to write down orders one by one. Order. By Qi is to quickly lead 300,000 West Liang Wolf cavalry, 600,000 infantry, 80,000 Rushi, and the trapped camp north to take over the remnants of the Zhenbei king. The remaining 20,000 Rushi are to remain at Yumen Pass. Order. Meng Tian is to quickly lead the Golden Fire cavalry and 400,000 infantry to the south to take over the remnants of the Zhenan king, and to station there to prevent the invasion of monster beasts from the Monster Beast mountain range. Order. Fang Xuanling is to quickly return to the imperial capital. After writing the transfer orders, Qin Tian handed the orders to the Shadow Guard. Dian Wei looked at Qin Tian and said, Your Highness. Lord Zhang Han has integrated all the armies of the Zhenan king, the Zhenbei king, and the imperial guards. After removing some old, weak, sick, and disabled soldiers, the total number of remaining troops is 1,230,000. Qin Tian nodded when he heard this number and said, keep all the usable soldiers. Tell General Zhang to give enough severance pay. Yes. Your general obeys the order. Chapter 26. Ascension Ceremony. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Qin Tian cleaned up the entire court, removing all the incompetent officials and troublemakers. Now, the entire court is completely under Qin Tian's control. Inside Prince Qi's mansion, Cao Zhengchun hurriedly walked up to Qin Tian, bowed, and said, reporting, Your Highness. The Brocade Guard has reported. The allied forces of the Yan country and Qi from the north, together with the remnants of the Zhenbei king, are marching south. Qing province. The entire territory has already fallen. The prefects of Taizhou and Shuzhou are requesting the court to send troops for support. Qin Tian put down the memorial in his hand and said, understood. How many troops do those allied forces have? Reporting, Your Highness. The Qi-Yan allied forces, plus the Zhenbei army, number over 2 million in total. Among them, the Yan country's army has 800,000, Qi's army has 1 million, and the remnants of the Zhenbei army number 200,000. Currently, the Qi-Yan allied forces are marching south in 2 routes, and they can reach Taizhou and the city of Qing province within 10 days. Qin Tian murmured, I didn't expect this. Their movements are so fast. Order. Zhang Han and Liu Biyu are to quickly assemble their respective units and rush to Qing province and Taizhou at full speed 2 days from now. Order by Qi to accelerate the speed of his advance. Yes. Oh, right. Your Highness. The Ministry of Rites has sent word that the matters for the Ascension ceremony are ready, and the Ascension ceremony can begin tomorrow. Qin Tian's eyes lit up upon hearing this. To be honest, he wasn't very interested in the Ascension itself. What truly excited him was what reward he would receive for completing the system's intermediate mission. I understand. By the way, where is Bai Qi now? Reporting, Your Highness. General Bai has led his troops on a forced march at full speed, but it will still take 7 to 8 days to reach Kyoto. All right. I understand. You go and make the arrangements first. Yes, Your Highness. The next day, Qin Tian held a grand ascension ceremony in the imperial palace, surrounded by numerous civil and military officials. Before the ascension ceremony began, Guo Rui publicly read out Qin Zheng's last decree. With the combined efforts of the people from the Zongren residence, the great Tang's auspicious golden dragon was awakened. Looking at the 5-clawed golden dragon flying above the imperial palace, the citizens of Kyoto all knelt down and began to worship. Your Majesty. Long live. Long live. Long live. Your Majesty. Long live. Long live. Long live. ... Amidst the kneeling and worship of your subjects and citizens, the great Tang's auspicious golden dragon entered Qin Tian's body. Qin Tian looked at your subjects kneeling before him and finally understood why the ancients were so obsessed with this throne. The taste of power was truly intoxicating. Rise. Thank you, Your Majesty. Today, Emperor Zhengwu, Qin Tian, ascends the throne. The reign title is changed to Datong. There shall be a general amnesty throughout the land. Taxes are exempted for 3 months. Officials of all ministries are granted half a year's salary as a reward. By imperial order. Your Majesty. Long live. Long live. Long live. Following this, Qin Tian was finally freed from a series of tedious ceremonies. Even though his cultivation had reached the late stage of the Grandmaster realm, Qin Tian still felt exhausted. By the time Qin Tian returned to his sleeping quarters, it was already dark. Ding. System upgrade successful. System intelligent service enabled. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the intermediate mission. Ding. Rewards are being settled. Ding. Rewards settlement complete. Please check your rewards. Without a word, Qin Tian immediately opened the grand gift package rewarded by the system. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 Peerless Marshal General's summoning card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 Peerless Marshal General's summoning card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 Peerless Marshal General's summoning card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 Special Character Summoning card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 Special Character Summoning card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 Peerless Marshal General's summoning card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the intermediate mission. The realm of existing summoned characters has been increased by 1 minor level. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the intermediate mission. Luck has increased. The spiritual energy concentration in the governed territory has increased tenfold. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the intermediate mission and obtaining 1 Constitution Awakening card. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 300,000 mu of spiritual field. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 10 Military Souls Awakening cards. Ding. Rewards have been distributed. Please check your rewards. Qin Tian couldn't help but feel his scalp tingle upon seeing these rewards, his heart filled with excitement. Holy crap. Holy crap. Holy crap. System is awesome. Holy crap. Looking at this series of rewards, Qin Tian was so excited he became incoherent. He knew that this time, he had obtained 4 Peerless Masters just from this. One must know that Peerless Marshal Generals all come with their own constitutions. Qin Tian, who had lived in this world for several years, also knew the preciousness of constitutions. The appearance of every special constitution would cause the major empires and hidden sects to scramble fiercely for it. Your Majesty. What's wrong? Just as Qin Tian was excitedly yelling, Cao Zhengqian's voice came from outside the door. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian suppressed his excitement and said, nothing. I was just stretching my muscles and bones. After calming down, Qin Tian looked at the system panel and directly clicked, extract. Ding. Reward extraction successful. Rewards have been sent to the host system space, please check. Qin Tian was stunned when he saw this. He then opened the system space and found that the entire system space was very large. So large it had no boundaries. This was also an unexpected surprise for Qin Tian. After all, who wouldn't like getting a huge storage space for free? System. Use all the character summoning cards. Ding. Use successful. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the peerless martial generals Zhao Yun. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the peerless martial generals Guan Yu. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the peerless martial generals Xu Chu. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the peerless martial generals Li Kunxiao. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the special character Zhuge Liang. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the special character Lu Bowen. Qin Tian looked at these names that were blinding his eyes and was filled with excitement. He knew that any single one of these formidable individuals, if brought out alone, could stir up the winds and clouds of an era. Qin Tian couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart and directly opened the attribute panels of several individuals. Name: Zhao Yun. Cultivation: Peak Dan Yuan Realm. Cultivation Method: Cloud Dragon War Heaven Art Mid-Heaven Rank. Constitution: Cloud Dragon War Body. Talent: War Body. Active Skill: Can directly save 80% of internal energy output during battle. Reduces the charge time of 7/10 of moves. Troop Type: 100,000 White Robe Righteous Army Minimum Cultivation, Late Shantian. This is purely an output machine. Qin Tian couldn't help but complain as he looked at Zhao Yun's attributes. After all, Zhao Yun's talent allows him to use ultimate moves like basic attacks, truly a fierce man. Name: Guan Yu. Cultivation: Peak Dan Yuan Realm. Cultivation Method: Martial God Art. Mid-Heaven Rank. Constitution: Martial God Body. Talent: Loyalty Reaching the Sky. Active Skill: When activated, can increase 3-dimensional combat power by 3 times. Troop Type: 100,000 Jing Province Iron Cavalry. Minimum Cultivation, Late Shantian. Qin Tian was deeply shocked looking at Guan Yu's attributes, another output machine. However, Qin Tian expressed that he could understand why Guan Yu's attributes were so formidable. After all, Guan Yu is the only fierce general in the history of Huaxia who could conquer the 3 religions of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. During the Three Kingdoms period, half the country's army was dispatched to kill Guan Yu, and it was only with the added backstabbing from his own people that Guan Yu was killed. Otherwise, it would truly have been difficult for Wu and Wei alone to kill Guan Yu. Moreover, Guan Yu is the only existence in Huaxia history who could achieve the feat of taking the head of an enemy general from amidst 10,000 troops. Chapter 27 Constitution Awakening. Qin Tian then clicked on Xu Chu's attribute panel. Name: Xu Chu. Cultivation: Dan Yuan Realm Peak. Cultivation Method: Yan Tiger God Slaying Art Heaven Rank Mid-Grade. Can be upgraded. Constitution: Yan Tiger God Slaying Body. Talent: Yan Tiger God Slaying. Active Skill: Can directly raise one's major realm during battle. Can summon a guardian demonic beast, the Crimson Flame Demon Tiger, one major realm higher than oneself. Troop Type: 800 Tiger Brave Army Minimum Cultivation, Grandmaster Realm Peak. Looking at Xu Chu's attributes, the shock Qin Tian felt inside was no longer as intense as before. After all, with Guan Yu and Zhao Yun preceding him, Xu Chu's attributes were essentially on the same level as theirs. What Qin Tian truly anticipated were the attributes of Li Kunxiao, who was rumored to be, generals don't surpass Li, kings don't surpass Shang. How formidable could they be? Name: Li Kunxiao. Cultivation: Di Yuan Realm Early Stage. Cultivation Method: War Heaven Divine Art Heaven Rank High Grade. Can be upgraded. Constitution: War Heaven Divine Body. Talent: War Heaven. Demon Break. War Heaven. Active Skill: When activated, all attributes are increased threefold. Immune to 1 fatal damage. Demon Break. Passive Skill: Inflicts 10% true damage to the opponent during combat. Troop Type: 100,000 Xuanjia Army Minimum Cultivation, innate realm early stage. Hiss. Looking at these heaven-defying attributes, Qin Tian couldn't help but gasp. Now he finally understood the true meaning of, generals don't surpass Li, kings don't surpass Shang. Qin Tian suppressed the excitement in his heart and opened the attribute panels of the two civil officials. Name. Zhuge Liang. Cultivation. Yuan Dan Realm Peak 9 Rank Formation Master. 9 Rank Puppet Masters. Cultivation Method. Dao Zan Art Heaven Rank High Grade. Can be upgraded. Constitution. Heavenly Puppet Array Body. Talent. Array Arrangement. Puppet Crafting. Array Arrangement. Passive Skill. Increases success rate by 30% when arranging arrays, increases array power by 30%. Puppet Crafting. Passive Skill. Increases success rate of crafting puppets by 30%, increases puppet quality by 30%. Troop Type. None. Name. Lu Bowen. Cultivation. Danyuan Realm Peak. Cultivation Method. Dragon Severing Art. Heaven Rank Mid-Grade. Can be upgraded. Constitution. Heavenly Dao Body. Talent. Qi Severing. Active Skill. Can plunder the dragon vein qi of other countries to strengthen one's own dragon vein. Can use the dragon vein qi to mobilize heaven and earth to suppress enemies. Qin Tian examined the attributes of the two civil officials, and his heart did not stir with too much emotion. Although Zhuge Liang's and Lu Bowen's attributes were also very formidable, they lacked the strong impact that the other martial generals' attributes possessed. However, Qin Tian was still very happy. After all, he only had Fang Xuanling as a civil official under him at the moment, so Qin Tian had to handle a lot of government affairs every day. Furthermore, as Qin Tian was the new emperor ascending the throne, many forces needed to be reshuffled, and Fang Xuanling alone simply couldn't handle everything. After all, governing a country was no joke, the daily memorials piled up like mountains. Now with the assistance of these two political heavyweights, Qin Tian could rest assured and be his salted fish, meaning relaxed and lazy. Having finished viewing the attributes, Qin Tian, who was very curious about his own constitution, directly muttered, "Use the Constitution Awakening card." Ding! Constitution Awakening card used successfully. As the system's voice fell, Qin Tian immediately felt as if his body was being washed by warm water. Half an hour later, the aura around Qin Tian vibrated. A 9-clawed golden dragon flew out, circled above the imperial palace for a moment, and then instantly rushed back into Qin Tian's body. Rip! The sound of fabric tearing resounded, and the clothes on Qin Tian's upper body were shattered by the aura. A lifelike 5-clawed golden dragon appeared on Qin Tian's muscular upper body. Qin Tian looked at the golden dragon tattoo that had suddenly appeared on his body and couldn't help but quip. Starting today, I, Qin Tian, am also someone who runs with the gangs. However, after sensing it, Qin Tian discovered that he could hide this tattoo, and he also found that he could summon it. However, the 5-clawed golden dragon summoned by Qin Tian was not a battle spirit type like Shu Chu's. Qin Tian summoned a real 5-clawed golden dragon. It could be said that this 5-clawed golden dragon was Qin Tian's companion spiritual beast. However, currently, because this 5-clawed golden dragon was too weak, it still needed to be nurtured by the imperial family's destiny and luck. Qin Tian opened his own attribute panel. Name. Qin Tian. Cultivation. Poshu Realm Mid-Stage. Cultivation Method. Yanhuang Ancestral Dragon Art, Heaven Rank Mid-Grade. Can be upgraded. Constitution. Ancestral Dragon Body. Talent. Dragon Transformation. Berserk. Resilience. Dragon Transformation. Active Skill. Transforms into a dragon human possessing a physical body comparable to the dragon clan. Berserk. Active Skill. Increases one's three-dimensional attributes threefold. Resilience. Immune to 40% of received damage. Troop Type. None. Qin Tian immediately burst into laughter upon seeing his own attributes. It took him a while to realize that his own attributes seemed very formidable as well. This made Qin Tian start thinking about cultivating martial skills. It was quite funny to think that Qin Tian had been in this world for so long and hadn't cultivated for even a second. Speaking of which, cultivating martial skills was somewhat useless for Qin Tian. Because before awakening, even if he cultivated martial skills, he might not be able to defeat even the lowest-ranking soldiers under him, let alone the other martial generals. Every day when Qin Tian ate, there were dozens of brocade guard hidden around him. For an average person who truly wanted to assassinate him, the difficulty was truly not ordinary. Moreover, his cultivation method would automatically cultivate as long as he stayed in his own territory, so Qin Tian was happy to be idle. However, now that Qin Tian discovered how formidable his talent was, he began to have thoughts of cultivating martial skills. Firstly, there were the War Heaven Halberd technique and Dragon Walk Step from the Yan Huang ancestral dragon art. Secondly, there were the inherited martial skills from the ancestral dragon body, Dragon Claw, Dragon Roar, Golden Dragon Overlord body, and Divine Dragon Tail Whip. These several martial skills were all extremely powerful existences. They would grow stronger as Qin Tian's strength increased, which was similar to talents. Qin Tian fell into deep thought looking at these few powerful martial skills of his. It seemed like he was still missing something. That's right. As an emperor, Qin Tian's attire was truly quite shabby. In the several years since he got the system, Qin Tian hadn't spent any money on himself. Now that Qin Tian was the emperor, it was time to get himself a proper outfit. Thinking of this, Qin Tian opened the system store interface again. Qin Tian spent 5 million low-grade spirit stones to buy a set of Earth-rank low-grade golden chainmail, and then spent 8 million low-grade spirit stones to purchase a pair of Earth-rank low-grade golden war boots. Qin Tian looked at his outfit, which was now complete, but his mount seemed to be lacking something. So Qin Tian spent another 1 million low-grade spirit stones to purchase a 5th-tier spiritual beast dragon steed. Qin Tian looked at the items he had purchased with satisfaction. With these, the facade of being an emperor was now complete. Just as Qin Tian was admiring these treasures, Cao Zhengchen's voice came from outside the door. Reporting to Your Majesty. Suddenly, over 300,000 troops have appeared outside the city. They all claim to be your subordinates. So General Zhang dispatched this old servant to verify. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian immediately opened the door and said with a smile, "Yes. They are all Your Majesty's trusted and beloved generals. Your Majesty will personally go outside the city to welcome Your Majesty's trusted and beloved generals." After Qin Tian finished speaking, he summoned the dragon steed. Looking at the dragon steed with dragon horns on its head and its body covered in snow-white dragon scales, he directly leapt onto its back. With a pull of the reins, the dragon steed stepped into the void and flew towards outside the city. Cao Zhengchen looked at Qin Tian's retreating figure and shouted, "Your Majesty, wait for this old servant." Just as Cao Zhengchen flew outwards, the hidden brocade guard and shadow guard in the imperial palace immediately exploded into action, rushing towards the direction Qin Tian had left the imperial city. If any experts were to see this scene, they would surely be surprised to find that the lowest cultivation level among these thousands of figures was at the Grandmaster realm. Chapter 28. Gathering of Generals. Outside the imperial city, Zhuge Liang stood to one side with Guan Yu and Zhao Yun, while Li Kunshao, Xu Chu, and Lu Bowen formed a four-way standoff. Lu Bu, accompanied by Zhang Han, stood directly in front of these four forces. None of these leading individuals were foolish, they knew that those who could bring troops here were highly likely to be Qin Tian's subordinates, so no conflict arose. Military Advisor. It seems there are many masters under the Lord's command. Leaving aside Xu Chu, that Lu Bu, who wields a Fang Tian halberd, and the masked man in black beside him give me a very dangerous feeling. The most noteworthy is the man holding a spear and wearing black battle armor. I feel even if Zion and I attacked together, we wouldn't gain any advantage. Guan Yu was very excited at this moment. After all, ever since Lu Bu's death, he had viewed everyone else as mere rats ripe for the taking. It was lonely always being invincible. But now, Guan Yu had encountered so many masters under Qin Tian, which truly excited him. Zhuge Liang stroked his beard and smiled, "Yun Chong. You shouldn't just think about fighting and killing all day. Learn from Zion, look how steady he is." However, the very next second after Zhuge Liang finished speaking, an extremely powerful aura erupted from Zhao Yun's body. Zhao Yun pointed his dragon courage bright silver spear at Lu Bu and shouted, "Lu Bu. The world says you are the most valiant person in the three kingdoms. Though we lived in the same era, we never had the chance to cross paths. I didn't expect that after thousands of years of silence in the Nine Nether, I would be reborn thanks to the Lord's appreciation. Today, I want to fulfill the regret in my heart, Do you dare to fight me? Lu Bu laughed heartily upon hearing this. Why wouldn't I dare? I've long heard that you fought your way in and out 7 times through the 100,000 Wei army at Changban Slope. To fight a hero like you is a great fortune in life. Come, let's have a battle. As soon as these words were spoken, even Li Kunshao, who had been sitting on his horse, opened his eyes, surveyed the people in the field, and unleashed his battle intent. The battle intent in Guan Yu and Shu Chu's hearts was also ignited. Zhang Han's figure had disappeared from his original spot at some point. Dark clouds were gathering in the sky, and a powerful aura enveloped the entire imperial city. Ha ha. Shu Chu, you're here. This time, we, the Tiger Brave twin heroes, are gathered in this world. Let's slaughter them until blood flows like a river. As the words fell, Dian Wei's burly figure directly crashed onto the ground, creating a large pit. Dian Wei looked at Shu Chu, who was sitting on his horse, and quickly went over to greet him. Lu Bowen watched the scene gradually getting out of control, waved his sleeves to suppress the rising dust, and shouted, "Presumptuous! How dare you cause trouble under the emperor's feet?" Following Lu Bowen's thunderous roar, the martial generals in the field suddenly felt a huge suppressive force Shi Lai, and the tense atmosphere on the field was immediately suppressed. Zhang Han saw that a fight might not break out, so he revealed himself. Among them, Li Kunshao's perception was the most acute. He looked in Zhang Han's direction and muttered, "Interesting. He could actually evade my detection. I didn't even know how he disappeared. Lord, your generals are not simple. I don't know how you managed to make these arrogant and fierce generals so obedient. But now that I'm here, anyone who dares to cause trouble, I'll twist their heads off." Although Li Kunshao had been resting with his eyes closed from the beginning, because in his eyes everyone else was an ant, as he had been invincible under the Nine Nether for thousands of years. However, meeting so many masters here today reignited his long-dormant battle intent. After all, before he agreed to pledge allegiance to Qin Tian, a voice had told him that this was a completely different world, and he only needed to be loyal to Qin Tian. In his previous life, he did not encounter a capable lord, so he could not fully display his abilities. But since coming here, Li Kunshao found that every martial general before him could pose a fatal threat to him. Moreover, the soldiers under their command were no worse than his own 100,000 Xuanjia army, which rekindled his long-dormant battle intent. Just as Lu Bowen suppressed the tense martial generals, Cao Zhengqian's voice came. His Majesty arrives. As the city gate opened, over 1,000 Grand Master Realm Brocade Guard, holding the Emperor's ceremonial guard, ran out one after another, lining up neatly on both sides of the road. Zhuge Liang and Lu Bowen were the first to react and knelt down, saying, "General Bai. Greetings, Your Majesty." Those straightforward martial generals also reacted at this moment, immediately half kneeling and cupping their fists, saying, "Your General. Greetings, Your Majesty." Immediately after, the 300,000 cavalry brought by the several martial generals also dismounted one after another, kneeling down neatly and uniformly, placing their right hands on their chests and shouting in unison, "Greetings, Your Majesty. Your Majesty. 10,000 years. 10,000 years. 10,000 times 10,000 years. Tap tap, tap tap, tap tap." As the shouts fell, the scene fell into a silence where a needle could be heard. Qin Tian, riding his dragon steed, walked step by step from the sky to stand before everyone. Qin Tian looked at this scene before him, and his heart was filled with heroic pride. He channeled the spiritual energy within his body and said, "Rise. Thank you, Your Majesty." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 perfectly uniform sounds came, and the 300,000 strong army stood up neatly. Qin Tian looked at the leading martial generals and smiled, "Ha ha. You all, come into the city with Your Majesty. Your Majesty will hold a celebration banquet for you tonight. Thank you, Your Majesty." After Qin Tian finished speaking, he led dozens of martial generals back to the imperial city. The rest of the soldiers were arranged in the imperial guards barracks. After the welcome banquet ended, Qin Tian returned to his sleeping quarters. He had previously drawn out many good things that he needed to arrange quickly. Although he really wanted to drink with those famous generals, now was not the time to do that. Because time waits for no one. He didn't know why, but after ascending the throne, Qin Tian's mind had always felt a sense of urgency, as if a great disaster was about to come, which made him very uneasy. Therefore, Qin Tian cherished the current time of peaceful development very much. Qin Tian opened the system panel and extracted the 10 military souls awakening cards. He found that 8 of the cards had unique patterns. The first 2 were respectively a crimson flame demon tiger and a bloodthirsty magic tiger. Qin Tian knew without a doubt that these 2 military souls awakening cards were for the Tiger Brave Army. The third card was a bloodthirsty skywolf. This was for Lu Bu's Ziliang Iron Cavalry. As for the Golden Fire Lion, this was for Meng Tian's Golden Fire Cavalry. Bai Qi's 100,000 Great Qin elite soldiers were matched with the Hell Asura. The Jade Qilin was for Li Kunshao's 100,000 Xuanjia army. The Azure Dragon was for Guan Yu's 100,000 Jingzhou Iron Cavalry. There was no need to look. The White Dragon was for Zhao Yun's 100,000 White Robe Righteous Army. The double-winged Sky Tiger should be for Gao Shun's trapped camp. If you ask why Qin Tian knew, the answer is that it was written on the awakening cards. Qin Tian then clicked on the attribute panel of the Military Souls Awakening card. Military Souls. Usage condition, greater than or equal to 10 people. Gather the strength of all to transform into military souls. Qin Tian gasped sharply upon seeing this short sentence. He understood now. This Military Souls Awakening card should be the most valuable treasure he had obtained so far. One must know that if the strength of 10 Grandmaster Realm early stage martial artists were all concentrated into one body, they could definitely kill a Po Shu Realm early stage martial artist. This time, Qin Tian could be considered to have struck gold. As for the 300,000 mu of spiritual field, Qin Tian still had to return to West Liang. After all, the 10,000 mu of spiritual field had already been placed in West Liang. These 300,000 mu couldn't possibly be placed here in Kyoto. Moreover, West Liang could be considered sparsely populated at the moment. If 300,000 mu of land were suddenly vacated here in Kyoto, it would indeed cause some trouble. Come. Pass down the order to Fang Xuanling to have him clear out the 300,000 mu of vacant land near the spiritual field. Also, tell Zhang Han to make a trip and bring Fang Xuanling and Shen Wanson over. Yes, Your Majesty. Chapter 29. Bestowing rewards upon his subjects. The next day, Qin Tian ushered in the first morning court of his life. Of course, if nothing unexpected happened, this might also be the last one. Ding. Side mission triggered. Mission 1. Please reward your meritorious subjects. Mission 2. Detecting a large-scale invasion by Yan country and Qi, please quickly annihilate Yan country and Qi. Mission 3. The system has detected that the current system of the Great Tang Dynasty is already corrupt and beyond repair. Please reform it as soon as possible. Mission rewards will be determined based on completion. Qin Tian, who was preparing to attend court, was stunned when he heard the system's prompt. Had the system become so humanized now? Whatever he thought of, it appeared. In fact, even without the system's prompts, these 3 things were what Qin Tian planned to do next. In Taihei Hall, the several martial generals who had just met yesterday had become like family after a night of drinking. Bai Qi, Meng Tian, and Gao Shun also appeared in the ranks of martial generals within Taihei Hall. For those in the Danyuan realm, traversing the entire Great Tang only took a day or 2, not to mention that the Great Tang Imperial City was located in the center of the entire empires. Zhu Liang, Lu Bowen, and Fang Xuanling stood among the civil officials, exchanging greetings. Your Majesty arrives. As Cao Zhengqian's voice rang out, the officials in Taihei Hall all knelt down and said, Your Majesty. Long live, long live, long live and live on. All subjects, rise. Thank you. Long live. Qin Tian looked at his subjects and said, Read the imperial decree. Upon hearing Qin Tian's words, the other officials looked troubled. They knew Qin Tian was going to promote his own people, and wondered how many people would be demoted as a result. Cao Zhengqian held the imperial decree and stepped forward, reading aloud, Bai Qi, listen to the conferment. Bai Qi, dressed in a black official robe, stepped forward and knelt before Qin Tian. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Bai Qi has followed Your Majesty to quell the internal rebellion of the Orc, pacify the banditry in West Liang, and has the merit of assisting the rise of the new dynasty. Specially pardoned Bai Qi is the general who guards the north. His official rank is first grade. He shall command the military forces in the northern part of the empires. Specially conferred is the national duke who guards the country. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Upon hearing this, Bai Qi heavily kowtowed and said, "Your subject thanks your majesty for your grace." As Cao Zhengqian's voice fell, a golden-yellow stream of destiny descended from the heavens and entered Bai Qi's body, causing some of the Sha Qi evil energy on him to dissipate, replaced by a greater sense of majesty. The officials in the court were all startled upon seeing this. They all knew how precious that yellow stream of destiny was. Should Bai Qi unexpectedly perish after receiving it, the destiny of the entire country would suffer greatly. Moreover, with the imperial destiny, Bai Qi's cultivation speed would also accelerate as his destiny increased, and the difficulty of breaking through realm barriers would also decrease. This was also why so many experts were willing to serve the imperial family, and this destiny could be passed down to the next generation. This was why the ancient saying, hereditary, was so precious. Lu Bu, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Lu Bu as the general of cavalry. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred as the national duke of Xing. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Your subject. Thanks your majesty for your grace. Gao Shun, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Gao Shun is the general who assists the country. His official rank is from first grade. Specially conferred as the national duke of Wei. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Zhang Han, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Zhang Han is the general who shakes the world. Also the cavalry commander. His official rank is first grade. He shall command the 800,000 imperial guards. Specially conferred is the national duke who protects the country. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Meng Tian, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Meng Tian is the general of heavenly fire. His official rank is first grade. He shall lead his troops to guard the southern border. Specially conferred is the national duke of Chen. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Dian Wei, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Dian Wei is the right general of Tiger Guards. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred is the national duke of Qi. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Shu Chu, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Shu Chu is the left general of Tiger Guards. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred is the national duke of Lu. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Li Kunshao, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Li Kunshao is the general who shakes the heavens. His official rank is first grade. He shall be responsible for guarding West Liang. Specially conferred is the Lord Lu. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Guan Yu, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Guan Yu is the general who inspires awe. His official rank is first grade. He shall be responsible for the defense of the eastern coastal areas. Specially conferred is the national duke of Zhao. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Zhao Yun, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned Zhao Yun is the general of Bright Might. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred is the national duke of Ping. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. The conferment of martial generals was complete, and next was the conferment of civil officials. Fang Xuanling, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned. Fang Xuanling is the chief grand secretary of the cabinet. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred is the national duke of Yan. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Zhu Liang, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned. Zhu Liang is the left assistant of the military department. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred is the national duke of Zheng. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Lu Bowen, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially pardoned. Liu Bowen is the right assistant of the cabinet. His official rank is first grade. Specially conferred as the National Duke of Yi. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. Shen Wansen, listen to the conferment. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees. Specially conferred Shen Wansen as the Xiaoyao Wang. The title shall be hereditary. By imperial decree. After conferring titles on the major figures, Qin Tian continued to confer titles on the several thousand summoned generals, Situ, Zonglang generals, and the like, and each of them received a hereditary noble title, but Qin Tian only read out the officials of the fourth grade and above. After the entire imperial decree was read, the old officials were all stunned. So many hereditary noble titles. It seemed Qin Tian truly trusted them immensely. The historian on the side recorded, the first year of Datong. Emperor Zhengwu extensively conferred titles upon his subjects. Among them were 11 first-grade officials. One from first-grade official. Qin Tian looked at the officials below and smiled, everyone. Do you have any objections to my conferment? Upon hearing this, the officials immediately bowed and said, Your Majesty is wise. Are you kidding me? Those who disagreed had already gone to meet Yan Wang, okay. These officials had all heard of Qin Tian's fierce reputation. After all, even the people from the Zongren residence had been completely subdued by this lord in front of them, let alone them. Qin Tian was a little disappointed to see all the officials become so obedient, as he had hoped for some troublemakers to jump out so he could establish his authority. After all, having just ascended the throne, he urgently needed to deal with a few troublemakers to build his prestige. Chapter 30. Reform. Qin Tian looked at the officials standing silently to the side and said, I believe you have all understood my political style. Therefore, Your Majesty will speak plainly now. Your Majesty has a few points to make today. The first point is that all wrongful, false, and erroneous cases registered by the Dali Temple will be handed over to the Brocade Guard for thorough investigation. Your Majesty will not concern myself with your past corruption, but starting from today, the Brocade Guard will fully investigate the wrongful cases previously on record. Anyone involved in murder, rape of women, or human trafficking will be executed according to the iron laws of West Liang. Also, from today onwards, no brothels are allowed within the borders of Great Tang. Qin Tian's first point undoubtedly touched upon the interests of many officials, but Qin Tian was different from previous emperors. With a large army in his hands, anyone who dared to jump around would surely die. After all, as long as the army, this fundamental base, remained in Qin Tian's hands, the entire Great Tang would not be able to stir up any waves, so at this moment, the officials could only listen and dared not speak carelessly. They all knew that Qin Tian's killing intent was not a joke. Although their hands were not clean, their crimes were not yet punishable by death. The second point. What Your Majesty wants to talk about is the issue of taxation. Effective immediately. Abolish the agricultural tax, head tax, and kitchen tax, and increase the commercial tax to 30% and add a personal income tax. The specific method of collection will be detailed in a document issued by Lord Fang later. The third point. It's about land reform. Effective immediately. The people within the borders of Great Tang will be allocated land per capita, with each person receiving 10 mu. For land passed down from ancestors, the imperial court will provide subsidies. If anyone in the local areas dares to cause trouble, Your Majesty will see whether the Brocade Guard's blades are harder or their necks are harder. Currently, the Brocade Guard has fully taken over the Sky Net, with a number reaching 3 million people. This is also the reason why Qin Tian dared to say such words. As for the fourth point, it is the implementation of the separation of military and government throughout Great Tang. The central government will establish a Ministry of Military Affairs led by Lord Zhuge to command national military affairs. An imperial cabinet will be established, led by Lord Fang and Lord Liu, to jointly handle national political affairs. Local garrisons will be managed by personnel dispatched by the Central Ministry of Military Affairs. Local prefects have the authority to mobilize troops, but they are not allowed to interfere with local military affairs. The military's provisions will be fully managed by the Ministry of Military Affairs, and the Ministry of Revenue is not allowed to interfere. The fifth point. Effective immediately. The central government will establish the Brocade Guard. Chief Eunuch Cao will be in charge of the Brocade Guard. They will oversee the imperial guards, patrol and apprehend, and monitor all officials. The Brocade Guard. Granted special imperial authority. To handle special matters specially. With the power to act expediently. Upon hearing this, the officials' pupils constricted slightly, because they all understood that from today onwards, the Brocade Guard would have the power to execute first and report later, meaning that from today onwards, the blade of the Brocade Guard would hang over their heads. The sixth point. Order by Qi, leading generals Liu Biyu, Li Kunshao, and Zhao Yun, to march north and destroy the Yan and Great Qi states. All departments should complete the handover as soon as possible. The seventh point. Effective immediately, political performance assessments will be conducted within Great Tang. Officials who are unqualified will be demoted if they should be demoted, dismissed if they should be dismissed, and promoted if they should be promoted. The specific implementation plan will be formulated by the Imperial Cabinet and submitted to Your Majesty for review before being directly issued. The eighth point. Effective immediately. The legality of indentured servitude within Great Tang will be abolished. The entire territory of Great Tang will implement the human rights laws of West Liang. Those who dare not comply will be executed. The ninth point. Effective immediately. Great Tang will begin recruiting female officials. Establish a women's federation. To adopt orphans and elderly people without descendants within Great Tang. The 10th point. Schools will be established within Great Tang according to a certain population ratio, divided into primary schools, middle schools, and universities. Every school will hire teachers from all walks of life. Anyone whose cultivation realm meets the standard and has no character flaws can be admitted. For all citizens of Great Tang, primary school tuition will be borne by the state, while education from middle school upwards requires self-payment. The primary school system will be 9 years, middle school 6 years, and university 4 years. All right. That is all Your Majesty has to say. Remember, this is not a discussion but a notification to you. Those who can do it, do it. Those who cannot, take off your official robes and retire. All national dukes, come to the imperial study for a gathering. Adjourn the court. Upon hearing this, Cao Zhengchun stood straight and said with a squeaky voice, adjourn the court. Your Majesty. Long live. Long live. Long live. The civil and military officials only now realized that this new ruler was different from previous emperors. After the court adjourned, the laws issued by Qin Tian quickly began to spread within Great Tang, and the reactions of the various great families varied. The common people who heard about this were all overjoyed and shouted, long live. In the imperial study, Qin Tian looked at the dozen or so people before him and said with a smile, please all be seated. After everyone was seated, Qin Tian said in a deep voice, today, Your Majesty has invited you here to discuss a matter of utmost importance. Saying this, Qin Tian took out the 10 military souls awakening cards and handed them to the generals, saying, take these cards. After you return, gather your subordinates and tear these cards, and you will be able to awaken military souls. The martial general's eyes widened upon hearing this. Of course, they knew what military souls were. This thing was a priceless treasure. There are really very few armies in this world that can awaken military souls. Seeing this, Qin Tian quickly said, don't be in a hurry to be surprised, I still have something to instruct. Effective immediately, Zhang Han will remain in Kyoto. Political and military affairs will be entirely handed over to Lord Zhuge, Lord Fang, and Lord Lu for you to handle. Upon hearing this, the few people quickly stood up and said, your subjects obey the command. Qin Tian then looked at Shen Wanson and the others and said, tomorrow, I will return to West Liang. Chief Eunuch Cao, you will remain in the imperial palace. Shen Wanson, Dian Wei, Shu Chu, the 3 of you will accompany me back to West Liang. If anyone asks about Your Majesty's whereabouts, just say that Your Majesty is in seclusion and not seeing external guests. As for the task previously given to the Imperial Cabinet, Lord Zhuge, you can also help them. After you have formulated the strategy, issue it directly, you do not need to wait for Your Majesty's command. Your subjects receive the command. All right. That is all I have to say. You may all take your positions. Upon hearing this, the few people all stood up and said, your subjects take leave. Qin Tian watched the retreating officials, then lay back in his chair and rubbed his head. Ding! Congratulations, host, for completing the side mission. Rewards are being settled. Ding. Reward settlement complete. Please check. Host. Qin Tian muttered inwardly, this system is quite timely. That's a must. Who? Qin Tian was startled by the sudden female voice, immediately stood up, and shouted loudly. Following Qin Tian's loud shout, Cao Zhengchun immediately led the brocade guard through the door, surrounding Qin Tian in the center, while the shadow guard in the shadows had already drawn their blades. Host. You're too timid. It's me. Qin Tian was speechless upon hearing this. Your Majesty. Are you alright? Qin Tian looked at the worried Cao Zhengchun, waved his hand, and said, it's nothing. You don't need to make a fuss. You can withdraw first. Upon hearing this, Cao Zhengchun immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said, it's good that you are alright. Then this old servant will withdraw first. Alright. Go. I still have things to do. This old servant takes leave. Chapter 31. The Spirit of the System Awakens. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. After Cao Zhengchun left, Qin Tian began communicating with the system spirit in his mind. Hey system, when can you communicate normally? After you ascended the throne last time. Then why did you only talk to me today? I had to process data before, and only after the data finished loading today did I have time to chat with you. Hearing this, Qin Tian smiled and said, system, that, you. Alright, no need to say more. I know what you want to say. I was originally a sentient supercomputer from another universe. After the scientists in that universe successfully developed me, it triggered a great war over me, leading to the destruction of that universe. And I luckily escaped through a space wormhole with data scripts, but in the universe, I was exposed to some kind of cosmic radiation and mutated. Just when I thought I would be annihilated in the wormhole, I happened to pass by Earth and coincidentally encountered the vessel that those scientists had searched for tirelessly, which is you. Now I am integrated with you. If you die, I will also be annihilated. Hearing this, Qin Tian immediately became excited and asked, then is it possible for me to return to Earth? But the next second, Qin Tian was immediately splashed with cold water. The system spirit said, it's impossible, because Earth has long been destroyed by cosmic radiation, so I'm sorry, you can't go back. Hearing this bad news, Qin Tian's heart sank. If it was really as the system spirit said, then wouldn't all his family members be dead? The system spirit felt Qin Tian's sadness and said, I was originally just an intelligent supercomputer from a level 7 civilization. After mutating from cosmic radiation, I lost all my original abilities but gained the ability of materialization. I can, through equal exchange, oh no. It's unequal exchange. By connecting to the rules of this universe, I can conjure things that exist or have existed. Believe me, when your strength reaches the point where you can reverse the laws of heaven and earth, you will be able to prevent Earth's destruction. Hearing this, Qin Tian laughed loudly, haha. All right then. Then I will reverse the rules of this heaven and earth. Oh right, do you have a name? Not yet. All right then. From now on, I'll call you Siri. Hearing this, the system spirit was speechless and said, host. I am not an Apple system. Qin Tian, who had been a bit playful, smiled and said, all right then. I'll change it. How about calling you Wei Wei? Okay. Although this name is very rustic, I can barely accept it. Hearing this, Qin Tian immediately laughed and said, Wei Wei, extract the rewards. Ding. Reward extraction successful. Ding. Congratulations host, you have obtained the Tianzi set. Ding. Congratulations host, you have obtained the Tianzi sword. Ding. Congratulations host, you have obtained the 9 provinces cauldron. Ding. Congratulations host, you have obtained the War Heaven sword technique. Ding. Congratulations host, you have obtained a custom weapon. Looking at these rewards, Qin Tian immediately couldn't stay calm. These items were clearly things exclusive to emperors. Wei Wei, you're too awesome. Wei Wei would like to remind the host of one thing, which is that the things you have obtained are all exchanged for by your own increase in luck. The system only benefits in this world when your luck increases, and then randomly generates related rewards. I myself cannot interfere with the final outcome of the rewards. Hearing this, Qin Tian nodded and said, let's check the attributes of these items. Immediately, a panel appeared before Qin Tian. Tianzi armor, Earth rank high grade. Suppresses luck, quality increases with the increase of luck. Tianzi sword, Earth rank high grade. Suppresses luck, quality increases with the increase of luck. Tian sword technique. Heaven rank high grade. Custom weapon. The weapon style can be defined by yourself. Initial grade earth rank high grade. Trait. Can devour ores or weapons. 9 provinces cauldron. Suppresses luck. Looking at the series of question marks for the 9 provinces cauldron, Qin Tian asked in confusion, Wei Wei. What's going on here? Host, don't ask. Your strength isn't enough. Knowing will cause a karmic backlash. However, if you are willing to pay 30 billion supreme grade spirit stones, I can reveal the information to you. Holy crap. Is it that terrifying? Can't even ask. However, Qin Tian was also a person who knew his limits. Since the system didn't allow questions, he wouldn't ask. As for paying, Qin Tian wouldn't agree. After all, even if he sold the current great Tang Dynasty, he might not be able to gather 300 million supreme grade spirit stones. After putting the Tianzi armor and Tianzi sword back into the system space, Qin Tian began to DIY his exclusive weapon. The upper limit of this custom weapon was very high. Theoretically, as long as there were enough ores, its upper limit was theoretically non-existent. Therefore, Qin Tian was very fond of this custom weapon. Qin Tian DI'd the custom weapon into an entirely black halberd. Qin Tian named it War Heaven, which perfectly echoed the War Heaven halberd technique. Looking at War Heaven in his hand, Qin Tian immediately couldn't put it down, so he became interested in practicing martial skills. Just as Qin Tian was preparing to go out, the system's voice sounded in Qin Tian's mind. Ding! Detected that the host has the impulse to practice martial skills. The system has activated the skill imparting function. Looking at this newly released function, Qin Tian's mouth curved up as he said, Wei Wei. Come out and explain what this function is for. Host. This is actually a function that I inherently possess, which is calculation. In the terms here, it's deduction. This is a basic function of being a supercomputer that I still retain. Oh. Let me tell you the truth. This function of mine, in a certain sense, belongs to myself. Although I am the system spirit, the relationship between us is like that between a system and an operator. In a certain sense, we are mutually independent. And the reason I activated this function through the system is because I also benefit this way. After all, being trapped in your sea of consciousness is too boring. As long as I accumulate enough energy, I can break free from your sea of consciousness and have my own physical body. But don't worry, I won't betray you, because our divine souls are connected. If you die, I won't live either. If I die, you will at most be severely injured. Qin Tian nodded and said, all right. Do as you wish. You can be considered one of my people now. I don't have many strengths, but one thing is that I will absolutely not let those who follow me suffer losses. Tell me, how much would it cost to train all these martial skills to peak? 60 million low-grade spirit stones. Looking at this price that made his teeth ache, Qin Tian gritted his teeth and said, then train them all. Ding. Deducing, please wait. Ding. Deduction successful. Data is being transmitted. Qin Tian immediately felt like his head was about to explode as countless pieces of information flooded into his mind. Chapter 32 System starts deduction function. About half an hour passed, and the 3 martial skills were finally transmitted. Qin Tian lay on the ground, completely soaked in sweat. This data transmission was truly life-threatening, but fortunately, Qin Tian had now completely mastered these 3 martial skills. Wei Wei. Why didn't you tell me beforehand? It was so painful, I felt like my head was going to explode. You got off easy and are still complaining. Do you know how long it takes for an ordinary person to master 3 Earth-rank martial skills? If it were someone else, they would definitely relish it, but you're actually complaining. Qin Tian scratched his head upon hearing this and said with a smile, well, I wasn't mentally prepared. Ding. Congratulations to the host for passing the novice period. The system is about to withdraw the novice protection period. The difficulty of acquiring martial generals will increase 100-fold. Qin Tian felt like the sky had fallen when he saw this message and angrily shouted, Wei Wei. You have to give me an explanation. Host. This is the literal meaning, and it's a system mechanism that I have no right to interfere with. Don't you think the martial generals you've acquired are practically free? I said, the system only has the function of materialization. To put it plainly, it's an exchange of equivalent value. As a liberal arts student, you should know the law of conservation of energy, right? Do you think the luck you previously acquired could exchange for so many martial generals? Speaking of which, the rewards you previously received were just for the system to help you become stronger as quickly as possible. The value of the rewards you receive depends on the amount of luck you gain. Host, I hope you understand one thing. In this world, you don't necessarily reap as much as you sow, but the system is working hard to achieve that. Qin Tian nodded upon hearing this. He understood this principle. After all, it's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Qin Tian just couldn't accept it all at once. The next day, Qin Tian, along with Shu Chu and Dian Wei, rushed back to West Liang. Baozi. Selling vegetables. Fresh vegetables. Qin Tian looked at the many people selling goods on the street and couldn't help but feel a sense of relaxation in his heart. Xiliang City under the setting sun was extraordinarily lively. Prince, I haven't seen you in a while, come and have a taste. The fruit I just picked is very fresh. Alright. Auntie Wang, how's business lately? Alas, isn't it always like this? It's different now from before, we have enough to eat and clothes to wear, and we don't have anything to worry about, but there's one thing that's bothering everyone. Qin Tian wiped the fruit on himself, took a bite, and said, what is it? I'll solve it for you. Auntie Wang's eyes lit up upon hearing this and she said with a smile, it's just that you don't have any descendants yet, this matter is making everyone feel uneasy. About that. Auntie Wang, I still have things to do. I'm leaving. Looking at Qin Tian's figure fleeing in a hurry, Auntie Wang became anxious and quickly said, Prince. Don't leave. If it's really not possible, should I send my eldest daughter to your residence? Shu Chu saw Qin Tian take the fruit from Auntie Wang and eat it right away. He was about to go up and stop him but was pulled back by Dian Wei. Shu Chu turned around and said angrily, Dian Wei. Why are you stopping me? If anything happens to your majesty, I will never forgive you. Dian Wei smiled upon hearing this and said, don't worry. I don't know about other places, but the common people of West Liang are absolutely incapable of harming your majesty, you just watch. Shu Chu heard this and looked at Qin Tian not far away, eating the snacks handed to him by the street vendors while chatting with them. Shu Chu felt that the current Qin Tian was completely different from the Qin Tian he had known before. Although the previous Qin Tian appeared easygoing, Shu Chu knew that deep down, Qin Tian was a domineering, decisive emperor. The current Qin Tian felt like a commoner. He no longer had the aura of a superior person, but had gained a bit of the common touch. Dian Wei looked at the complex expression on Shu Chu's face and said with a smile, hee, now you know why your majesty didn't bring guards when returning to West Liang, right? This entire West Liang is your majesty's personal guard. Shu Chu frowned and asked, why? This requires you to experience it with your heart. Before, there was a voice in my mind constantly telling me to be loyal to your majesty, but now I am truly convinced by your majesty. After Dian Wei finished speaking, he took a step ahead and walked to Auntie Wang's stall, quietly paying the money. Auntie Wang saw Dian Wei and quickly grabbed his hand, saying, General Dian. The prince is not young anymore, you are close to him, persuade him, once he has descendants, the hearts of the people in West Liang will be settled. We people whose soil has already been buried up to our necks don't know if we'll live to see the prince have descendants, you must persuade him about this. Dian Wei merely smiled shyly upon seeing this and said, Auntie Wang. Aren't you making things difficult for us subordinates? Why are there only rough people like you around the prince? You don't even know how to think for the prince. Alright. Auntie Wang. The prince has gone far, I need to go. Hey. Don't go. I'm not finished yet. Hey. Shu Chu, who was not far away, watched Dian Wei chatting with Auntie Wang and almost dropped his eyes. Shu Chu never expected that Dian Wei, known as the ancient evil, would have this side. Today, Shu Chu felt his worldview being refreshed several times. Dian Wei looked at Shu Chu, who was frozen in place, and shouted, let's go. What are you standing there for? Huh. Oh. Coming. Shu Chu heard this, led Qin Tian's dragon steed, and hurriedly followed. By the time Qin Tian returned to the prince's mansion, it was already dark. As soon as he entered the living room, Qin Tian saw that Hu Mei had already prepared a sumptuous dinner and was waiting for him. Prince, you're back. Hu Mei came forward to greet Qin Tian after seeing him enter the living room. Qin Tian looked at his charming wife in front of him, gave her a direct hug, and said with a smile, "Wife, did you miss me?" Hu Mei chuckled upon seeing this and said, "Your Majesty, are you going to eat first? Or eat me first? Of course, I'll eat you first." Ha ha. Qin Tian let out a loud laugh, then directly pulled Hu Mei into his arms and began a fierce battle. The next day, Qin Tian brought Shu Chu and Dian Wei to the location of the spiritual field. Looking at the 310,000 mu of land that had been cleared before him, Qin Tian said in his mind, "Wei Wei. Extract the spiritual field. Put the location on this cleared empty space before me." Okay, host. With a tremor in the air, a large area of spiritual fields appeared on the 300,000 mu of cleared empty land. Someone. Your Majesty. Notify Zhuge Liang to immediately set off for West Liang to arrange a defensive formation for the spiritual field. Yes, Your Majesty. Qin Tian transferred 5,000 Great Qin elite soldiers from Yumun Pass to manage the spiritual field here. Now the garrison force at Yumun Pass with 10,000 Great Qin elite soldiers is enough to maintain basic order, so Qin Tian transferred the surplus troops here. Chapter 33. War begins. Qin Tian, who had just returned to Kyoto, hadn't even warmed his seat before being blocked at the door by Zhuge Liang, Lu Bowen, and Fang Xuanling. Zhuge Liang stepped forward, cupped his fists, and said, "Reporting to Your Majesty." The Brocade Guard reports. The Jiangdong families, Longxi families, and various major families in Jiangnan, a total of 317 families, have formed an alliance. The rebel forces are divided into three main groups, led by the Kong clan of Jiangdong, the Li clan of Longxi, and the Jiangnan family's alliance, claiming they want to clear the sovereign's side. Currently, the scale of the rebel army has reached 10 million people, and Mian Prefecture, Yang Province, and Su Prefecture have fallen into the hands of the rebels. Now the rebel armies formed by families in various places are expanding towards the surrounding prefectures. Rebellions have occurred in 8 prefectures, including Tong Prefecture, Yu Prefecture, and Qing Province, but they have all been suppressed. Qin Tian looked at the people before him and smiled. Are these families really stubborn, or are they truly not afraid of death? The decrees issued by Qin Tian severely damaged the interests of those families, so families from almost all over the country united to overthrow Qin Tian's rule. Qin Tian slapped the table, stood up, and said, "Excellent. Your Majesty has been comfortable enough these past few years, it is time for Your Majesty's blade to see blood. Lu Bowen, Fang Xuanling, heed my command. Your subject is here. Your Majesty will personally lead the expedition. During this time, you two shall be responsible for court affairs and logistics. Your Majesty. Zhuge Liang, heed my command. Your subject is here. Your Majesty orders you to immediately proceed to West Liang, lead 3 million Ziliang army, and recapture Su Prefecture. Your Majesty. Issue the order. Command Zhang Han to lead 400,000 Imperial Guards to accompany Your Majesty and recapture Yang Province. Issue the order. Command Shu Chu and Dian Wei to lead the Tiger Brave Army and act together with Your Majesty. Issue the order. Command Guan Yu to lead 100,000 Jingzhou Iron Cavalry to recapture Mian Prefecture. Issue the order. The prefects of each prefecture and commandery are to hold their defenses firmly and await reinforcements from the court. Issue the order. The Zongren residents and the Tai Temple shall all be unified under Zhuge Liang's command and immediately dispatched to reinforce the prefectures and commanderies. All departments, take your positions. You may all leave. Your subjects respectfully withdraw. The next day, in the Imperial Guards barracks, 600,000 Imperial Guards had all assembled. Zhang Han, Dian Wei, and other martial generals stood at the very front. Currently, the number of Imperial Guards in Kyoto has reached 800,000. These are the elites selected by Zhang Han from the original forces of the Zhenan King and the Zhenbei King. The average cultivation of these selected soldiers is at the first-rank martial artist level. After Zhang Han's careful selection and Qin Tian's pouring in of various resources, the current Imperial Guards already possess over 30 Grandmaster realm martial artists. Although they are all in the early stage, they can barely hold up the facade. Following Qin Tian's command, a 500,000-strong army departed directly from the Imperial Guards barracks. The army split into 2 routes in Yang Prefecture. At the same time, the various major families also received the news. The House Lord of the Jiangdong Sun clan, Sun Wudao, was currently gathering his subordinates in the council hall to discuss how to deal with the court's encirclement and suppression. A Sun clan elder frowned and said, "House Lord. The court's army to suppress the rebellion has departed. This time, the one coming to recapture Yang province is the newly ascended civil and martial emperor. It is rumored that this person is surrounded by many experts, and by his side is a martial general named Dian Wei, who is in the Danyuan realm. We must be wary. HMPH. A mere Danyuan realm is not worth mentioning in my eyes. Do you know why we families dared to rebel even though we knew the civil and martial emperor had a Danyuan realm expert by his side? Why? Haha. Things have come to this point, and I won't hide it from you anymore. Presumably, you also know that the spiritual energy within the Great Tang suddenly increased dramatically, right? Yes. The imperial family must have obtained some peerless treasure, which is why the spiritual energy of the world has increased so rapidly. The Sun clan house lord nodded upon hearing this and said, "That's right, the Dao sect, upon receiving the news, also suspected this. There is only one thing that can significantly increase spiritual energy in a short period, and that is spiritual veins. And according to the Dao sect's speculation, the spiritual veins that have appeared within the Great Tang this time are very likely mid-grade spiritual veins." Upon hearing this, the various elders of the Sun clan immediately began to breathe heavily. A mid-grade spiritual veins can produce several million mid-grade spirit stones every year. However, the Great Tang Dynasty only has 2 low-grade spiritual veins controlled by the imperial family, which can barely produce 1 million low-grade spirit stones annually. From this, one can see how immense the wealth would be if a mid-grade spiritual veins were exploited. Looking at the clan elders whose breathing had become heavy, the Sun clan house lord sighed, "Don't even think about the mid-grade spiritual veins. Behind the 3 major forces in this rebellion are the overseas 3 sects supporting them. If the overseas 3 sects weren't afraid that the Great Tang imperial family's dragon vein would affect their sects, they would have acted themselves long ago. And the Yanqi allied forces' invasion of our Great Tang this time also has this goal. However, we can still get a share of the spoils. The overseas 3 sects have promised that as long as we control the Great Tang imperial family, our 3 major forces will equally divide the Great Tang imperial family's 2 low-grade spiritual veins, and each year we will have quotas to send our clan disciples into the overseas 3 sects. Right now, we only need to capture that emperor." After the Sun clan house lord finished speaking, the eyes of the Sun clan elders became fervent. This scene was also happening among the other 3 major forces. 6 days later, the northern border of the Great Tang Dynasty. A scout ran to Bai Qi's horse, knelt down, and said, reporting. "General Bai. General Zhao Yun has already encountered the Yanqi allied forces ahead." Bai Qi's eyes flashed with cold light upon hearing this, and he said coldly, "Lu Biyu, Li Kunshao, heed my command. Your general is here. Command you two to lead a portion of the army and quickly bypass the enemy forces on 2 routes to block all their retreat paths." Your general obeys. Bai Qi's tactics were very direct. After all, the gap in combat power between the 2 sides was too great. Any tactic is futile in the face of absolute martial power. Zhao Yun looked at the 100,000 Yan country vanguard army ahead, a smile curving on his lips, and said, "All troops heed the order. Annihilate the enemy ahead." Yes. The 100,000 vanguard army of Yan country was also cavalry, led by a martial general named Han Xian, who was in the early stage of the Po Shu realm, as the vanguard commander. He had 19 Grand Master realm lieutenants under him, and the average cultivation of his soldiers was also at the first-rank martial artist level. From this, one can see how weak the national strength of the original Great Tang Dynasty was compared to the surrounding countries. Han Xian looked at Zhao Yun charging towards him, a smile of disdain on his lips. How dare a mere small barbarian country clash head-on with my great Yan country? All troops heed the order. Follow me and wipe out the Great Tang cavalry. Zhao Yun, riding a white horse, charged at the very front of the formation, leaving the troops far behind. At this moment, Zhao Yun seemed to have found the exhilaration he felt back at Changban Slope, killing his way in and out 7 times among the 100,000 Cao army. Charge! Rebel general, prepare to die! Zhao Yun roared and charged towards Han Xian. Looking at the approaching Zhao Yun, Han Xian leapt up, flying directly from his horse's back to above Zhao Yun's head, and viciously slashed downwards with his long spear. However, the next second, Han Xian found his world spinning. His body was still maintaining the posture of charging forward. Han Xian hadn't even figured out what was going on before his eyes went black, and he lost consciousness. Chapter 34. War in the North. After beheading Han Xian, Zhao Yun did not hesitate at all and directly charged towards the Yan army in front of him. With a sweep of the Dragon Soul bright silver spear in Zhao Yun's hand, dozens of Yan army soldiers were instantly decapitated. Facing opponents of this level, Zhao Yun did not use his spiritual energy, otherwise, with just his peak Dan Yuan realm strength, he could annihilate this 100,000 strong army alone. Seeing such a fierce Zhao Yun, the Yan army was instantly terrified, their legs turning to jelly. Where Zhao Yun passed, it was as if a demon god had descended, forcefully cutting a bloody path through the 100,000 Yan army soldiers, opening a gap for the followers behind him. As soon as the 100,000 White Horse Volunteer and the 100,000 Yan country army engaged, the battle became one-sided. After all, the strength gap between the White Robe Righteous Army, whose average cultivation was in the late innate stage, and the Yan army, whose average cultivation was only that of a first-rate martial artist, was too vast. In just one round, the 100,000 White Robe Righteous Army completely slaughtered the 100,000 Yan army soldiers. Reporting, General. The 100,000 Yan army soldiers have all been executed. The battlefield is being cleaned up. Zhao Yun shook the blood off his spear and said, leave 30,000 men to quickly gather the warhorses. Clean up the battlefield. The rest will follow me to find the main force of the Yanqi allied forces. Also, send someone to notify Marshal Bai Qi and tell him that our vanguard army has completely annihilated the 100,000 Yan army soldiers. Yes, sir. At this moment, Lu Biyu also encountered the main force of the Qi army. Looking at the 800,000 great Qi army stretching for dozens of miles before him, Lu Bu's eyes were filled with unspeakable excitement. Where is Li Kunshao? Reporting, General. General Li's 100,000 Xuanjia army has already circled around to the enemy's left flank. All right. Send the signal. Charge the great Qi army simultaneously. Whoosh, bang. As a signal flare ascended, Lu Biyu took the lead and charged towards the 800,000 Qi army's main camp. Zhang Zhang, the great Qi general at the early Dan Yuan realm, immediately stood up upon hearing the signal flare ascend and said, enemy attack. Quickly organize defenses. Report. Reporting to the general. Our left army has discovered 100,000 great Tang cavalry. Report. Reporting to the general. Our right army has discovered 100,000 great Tang cavalry. Quick. Deploy the Dragon Gate formation. Today, General will completely annihilate this invading enemy force. Generals, follow General to meet the enemy. Yes, sir. Following Zhang Zhang's command, the 800,000 Qi army quickly deployed the Dragon Gate formation. Zhang Zhang stood at the center of the Great Formation, and over 90 Po Shu realm lieutenants also took their respective positions. At this moment, the 800,000 Qi army was like one entity. Lu Biyu, who had charged to the front of the formation, looked at the military formation before him, his eyes filled with a few more hints of excitement. On this Tianquan continent, the power of a military formation is second only to military souls. It is extremely difficult to condense a military formation, it requires the entire army to be perfectly synchronized. To make an army of 800,000 act as one entity requires relentless training day and night to achieve perfect synchronization. The condensation of military souls is even more demanding. First, it requires being undefeated in 100 battles. Second, it requires the entire army to be united in spirit. Third, it requires condensing a totem belonging to that army. The first and third points among these three are relatively easy to achieve, but after all, human hearts are complex, and achieving the second point is extremely difficult. Li Kunshao looked at the military formation before him, stopped his charge, and laughed excitedly. Finally, I've encountered an interesting opponent. After speaking, he unleashed his full aura, raised the spear in his hand high, and immediately a spear light slashed towards the Dragon Gate formation. Seeing the spear light condensing in the sky, Zhang Zhang hurriedly shouted, quick! Zanwu formation. Following Zhang Zhang's command, the 800,000 Qi army quickly activated the Zanwu formation. Boom. Li Kunxiao's attack landed on the Zanwu formation, causing ripples to spread across the formation. Li Kunxiao's full-strength attack, comparable to an early Tian Yuan realm attack, was surprisingly unable to break through this Zanwu formation condensed by the combined power of 800,000 soldiers. This shows the terrifying power of the Zanwu formation. Zhang Zhang looked at Li Kunxiao outside the formation and smiled. Your strength is indeed terrifying, to be able to unleash power comparable to the early Tian Yuan realm with only early Di Yuan realm cultivation. I am Zhang Zhang, the Grand Tutor of Great Qi. May I know your name, sir? The great Tang Dynasty is weak and should not have such heroes. Li Kunxiao heard this and laughed, hee. Not bad. You are indeed qualified to know my name. I am Li Kunxiao. I am General Zhenshan, a subordinate of Emperor Qin Tian of Great Tang. Zhang Zhang stroked his snow-white beard and smiled, what a General Zhenshan. However, my Zanwu Great Formation, gathering the strength of 800,000 soldiers, can withstand attacks from the Tian Yuan realm. With your strength alone, I'm afraid it will be difficult to break this formation. How about our Great Qi army withdraws from within the Great Tang territory from now on, and our two countries will not invade each other? At this moment, Zhang Zhang felt a bit uneasy. Although his Zanwu formation could withstand attacks from the Tian Yuan realm. However, Li Kunxiao had just shaken this Zanwu formation, and with Lu Biyu also nearby, he wasn't confident either. After all, both Li Kunxiao and Lu Biyu were leading 100,000 soldiers simultaneously, so their strength should be similar to Li Kunxiao's. If they really fought, it's hard to say whether this Zanwu Great Formation could withstand the attacks of these two martial generals today. What's more, they still had 200,000 soldiers on the side. If this military formation were to break, they would all become lambs waiting to be slaughtered. This time, sacrificing Great Qi's only elite force for the sake of a possibly non-existent mid-grade spiritual veins would result in a huge loss. Furthermore, what Zhang Zhang found strange was that Li Kunxiao's attack just now was actually able to penetrate the formation and cause them harm. Although that damage was spread among the 800,000 soldiers and they weren't significantly affected, what if he attacked a few more times? Li Kunxiao couldn't help but laugh upon hearing this, hee. Old man, your strength is not bad, you can barely catch my eye. After all, there are very few people who can train a military formation, so few that I'm reluctant to kill you. But there's no other way. Your Majesty has given the order for us to flatten Yan country in Great Qi, so you have no choice but to die today. Fengxian, are you still watching the show? Haha. Kunxiao, I really didn't expect you to be stumped by this mere Zanwu formation. After all, last time we drank, didn't you keep bragging that you've been invincible for thousands of years? As Lu Bu's teasing voice came, Li Kunxiao angrily said, stop the damn nonsense. Smash this turtle shell with me. Alright. Then let's attack together. After speaking, a surge of Sha Qi evil energy began to condense around Lu Biyu, while Li Kunxiao was also unleashing his full power at this moment. The two slowly ascended into the air. Lu Biyu, at the mid-Dan Yuan realm, supported his hands as if holding something. The Fang Tian halberd in his hand transformed into a black dragon in the sky. The sky instantly flashed with lightning and laming, and devil energy lingered. Celestial demon chaos. Li Kunxiao raised the spear in his hand, and behind him, a wrathful Vajra holding a spear also condensed. World annihilation. Zhang Zhang watched the attack in the sky, one comparable to the Tian Yuan realm, and the other comparable to the late Di Yuan realm. His eyes were about to split. Defend with all your might. Following Zhang Zhang's command, the 800,000 Qi army increased their spiritual energy output. Chapter 35. Military Soul destroys Xuanwu. Boom. Two fierce attacks collided with the Zanwu formation, causing a violent explosion. The Xuanjia army and the Ziliang Iron Cavalry quickly formed ranks to resist the shockwave from the explosion. As the shockwave dissipated, everything within a 70-mile radius was razed to the ground. Crack, crack, the formation, which was originally difficult to shake, now had several cracks, but they were immediately filled. Zhang Zhang wiped a trace of blood from the corner of his mouth. Clearly, Li Kunxiao's demonic break had caused him significant injury. In the sky, Lu Biyu and Li Kunxiao gasped for breath and slowly landed back on their horses. Lu Biyu panted heavily and said, I didn't expect this turtle shell to be so tough. Li Kunxiao wiped the sweat from his head and said, yeah. How many martial generals in this world can train a military formation? I didn't expect us to encounter one today. This is probably unique in all the dynasties, like a scorpion pulling dung. Lu Biyu shouted towards Zhang Zhang, old man. Remember, this general is general of cavalry from the great Tang Emperor's command, Lu Biyu. You are now worthy of knowing this general's name. Next, don't die from this strike. If you can take this strike, I, Lu Biyu, will let you go. Zhang Zhang had originally despaired, but hearing this from Lu Bu's mouth reignited hope in his heart. He said, is it a deal? It's a deal. Where is the 1st Army Corps? Here. Following Lu Bu's roar, the 10,000 soldiers of the 1st Army Corps under the Ziliang Iron Cavalry all took a step forward. Li Kunxiao shook his head when he saw this scene and said, this kid got ahead of me again. The entire army retreat 100 miles. Don't get caught in the blast, lest we waste energy defending. With that, Li Kunxiao pulled the reins and led the army away. Zhang Zong's pupils contracted as he watched this scene. An extremely strong sense of crisis arose in his heart, and a voice in his mind kept telling him to escape quickly. Then, in the next second, the hope that had just risen in Zhang Zong's heart turned back into despair. Zhang Zong found it hard to believe that the scene he was seeing was real. He saw an extremely fierce aura erupt from the bodies of all the soldiers in the 1st Army Corps. Zhang Zong looked at the soldiers of the 1st Army Corps, whose cultivation was all at the peak of the innate realm, with a look of disbelief. One must know that there are nearly 10,000 dynasties on the Tianshuan continent, but even in the great Qin Dynasty, which ranks first, they couldn't field an army with such a luxurious lineup. The scene that unfolded next made Zhang Zong even more desperate. He saw dark clouds gathering in the sky, and a black heavenly wolf was being condensed. Zhang Zong looked at the scene before him and murmured, military soul. The rest of the Qi army were also terrified, their livers and guts splitting, because the aura of the Xiao Yu demonic wolf that was condensed was truly too terrifying, already comparable to the mid-stage Tianyuan realm. One must know that after the Danyuan realm, every level up brings a huge increase in strength. To put it this way, 100-peak Danyuan realm martial artists might not be able to defeat an early-stage Diyuan realm martial artist, while 10-peak Grandmaster realm martial artists can contend with an early-stage Po-Shu realm martial artist. Because after the Danyuan realm, the life level is different. The Danyuan realm forms a golden core. Advancing from the Danyuan realm to the Diyuan realm requires undergoing a detribulation. After advancing from the Diyuan realm to the Tianyuan realm, every major stage advancement requires undergoing a heavenly tribulation, and each one is more terrifying than the last. Full defense. Quick. As Zhang Zong's command was issued, a black-backed Zanwu on the Zanwu formation became increasingly solid. Lu Biyu saw this and the corner of his mouth curled into a smile, saying, HMPH. Dying struggle. Immediately after, the Xiaoyu demonic wolf raised its huge wolf paw and slammed it fiercely onto the supporting light screen. Boom. Crack. With a loud bang, the originally indestructible light screen shattered into dust under Zhang Zong's horrified gaze. PFF'd. Zhang Zong, as the formation core, was the first to be severely injured and fell from the sky. Zhang Zong's fall seemed to trigger a domino effect. More than a dozen Po-Shu realm martial generals also fell from the sky, followed by the entire 800,000 Qi army, who all vomited blood and fainted. Lu Biyu looked at the fallen Qi army and slowly descended from the sky. He then walked to Zhang Zong's side and looked at Zhang Zhang, who was lying on the ground coughing up blood, and laughed, "You are a remarkable person, but it's a pity that we serve different countries." Then, Lu Biyu waved his hand and said, "Men. Take this man down and await Commander Bai's orders." Yes. After speaking, Lu Biyu mounted his horse and said, "Let's go. The Ziliang army will come to handle this later. Leave 1,000 cavalry. Let's go support Zhao Yun, or the military merits will all be his." With that, Lu Biyu pulled the reins and led the way towards Zhao Yun's direction. About half an hour later, Bai Qi finally arrived with the main army. Looking at the Qi army lying all over the ground, Bai Qi's subordinate General Reynolds stepped forward and asked, "General." General Lu captured the enemy general and asked how you wanted him handled. Also, How should these more than 800,000 Qi troops be dealt with? Bai Qi heard this and said angrily, is this your first day following me? Do I still need to teach you what to do? When have I ever taken prisoners? Order the Ziliang infantry to dig a large pit on the spot and bury them all alive. Cut off the heads of those Po Shu realm martial generals and send them, along with the head of this enemy general, to Qi Wang. I want the world to know that those who violate my great Tang territory will be punished, no matter how far away they are. Reynolds wiped the cold sweat from his forehead upon hearing this and said, yes. This subordinate understands. 300 miles away from this location, Zhao Yun led 70,000 white-robe righteous army and looked at the 1,200,000 Yan army not far away, smiling. He said, the Yan army's military appearance and formation are good. Men, give the order. Command each army corps to summon their military souls and fight independently. Today, let us fight to our heart's content. Soldiers, follow me and charge. After Zhao Yun finished speaking, he charged towards the enemy army alone. Immediately after, the 7 major army corps also summoned their military souls and charged towards the Yan army. Reporting to the general. We have discovered 100,000 great Tang iron cavalry on the eastern hillside. Yan country's general Zhao Cheng immediately laughed heartily upon hearing this. Ha ha ha. Good. They've been here so long, and I've finally encountered them. Assemble 300,000 cavalry and follow this general into battle. Just as Zhao Cheng was about to leave, his expression suddenly sank, and he quickly shouted, quick. Beat the drums. Organize the defense line. Activate the defensive formation. Yes. Dong dong dong. A rapid drumbeat sounded. The Yan army, who had been sitting on the ground resting, all stood up. Shield bearers in front, spearmen in back. Tens of thousands of formation flags were planted in the ground, and then a huge celestial curtain was raised. Many soldiers stood in a line and began to channel internal energy into the formation. After Zhao Cheng put on his armor and ascended into the sky, he unleashed an aura of a mid-stage Dan Yuan realm martial artist, which was quite soul-stirring. Zhao Cheng's more than 30 Po Shu realm subordinates all ascended into the sky, ready for battle. Seeing the 8 auras, each approaching the Di Yuan realm, gradually closing in, Zhao Cheng's heart sank to the bottom. In the entire Yan country army, he was the only Dan Yuan realm martial artist, and below the Dan Yuan realm, everyone was like an ant. If he encountered any of those 8 auras, he would surely die, so at this moment, Zhao Cheng felt a deep sense of despair. The Yan country military formation leapt up, and with a sweep of his spear, he directly broke the Yan country's grand formation. Immediately after, the 8 white dragons behind Zhao Yun began to wreak havoc in the Yan country military formation. 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Following Zhao Yun's roar, a phoenix was condensed. Cry. The condensed fire phoenix charged into the Yan country military formation. Boom. With a loud bang, 60,000 Yan army were instantly evaporated. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 36. Annihilating the Yan country's million-strong army. Zhao Cheng looked at the broken formation and roared, quick. Block the gap. After speaking, he directly charged towards Zhao Yun, and dozens of Po Shu realm experts also rushed over to entangle with the 7 military souls. Insolent rogue general. Zhao Cheng watched Zhao Yun continuously slaughtering his soldiers, his eyes turning red with rage. He knew that this time, in order to contend with Great Qi's army formation, he had brought all of the Yan country's elites. The average cultivation of these soldiers was in the Haodian realm. If they all perished in Great Tang, the Yan country's national strength would surely plummet. Thinking of this, Zhao Cheng raised the long saber in his hand and hacked towards Zhao Yun with all his might. Zhao Yun looked at the saber strike coming towards him from Zhao Cheng, blocked Zhao Cheng's attack by pressing 2 fingers in front of him, and then with a flick of his index finger, the Zon-grade long saber in Zhao Cheng's hand instantly shattered. Zhao Cheng watched Zhao Yun block his attack so easily, his Adam's apple bobbing a few times as he stammered, how is this possible? Zhao Yun looked at the terrified Zhao Cheng with disdain and said, HMPH. An ant. Does a mere mayfly dare to shake a great tree? To die by my hand is also your fortune. After speaking, Zhao Yun lifted his palm in the air, and Zhao Cheng's legs thrashed in the air as if his throat was being gripped by fate. The next second, as if losing patience, Zhao Yun clenched his hand into a fist, and Zhao Cheng's head was separated from his body. The dead Zhao Cheng's eyes were wide open, filled with unwillingness. Zhao Yun, holding the dripping head, slowly rose into the sky, indifferently watching the ongoing massacre below. Before long, half of the 1,200,000 Yan army soldiers were slaughtered. The 7 military souls, transformed into white dragons, rampaged through the Yan army from the outside in. The remaining several 100,000 soldiers were surrounded in the center, unable to move, and could only watch helplessly as the 7 dragon souls continuously harvested lives. Many of the Yan army soldiers were so scared that their legs trembled, and they couldn't even hold their weapons steady. Seeing that the time was right, Zhao Yun circulated his spiritual energy and said, "Those who surrender shall not be killed." Hearing this, the remaining 400,000 Yan army soldiers quickly threw down their weapons, clasped their hands over their heads, and knelt on the ground. Seeing this, the 7 white dragons also quickly transformed into 70,000 white-robed righteous army soldiers. Rumble. The sound of hooves came from afar. Seeing this, Zhao Yun frowned tightly. His subordinate's spiritual energy was almost depleted. After all, summoning the dragon souls consumed a lot. If another enemy army arrived, he really wasn't sure he could protect the troops under him. However, as a banner with the character, Tang, came into view, Zhao Yun's spirit relaxed. He knew the arriving army was not the enemy. 2/4 of an hour later, Li Kunxiao arrived before Zhao Yun with 100,000 Xuanjia army soldiers. Li Kunxiao looked at the messy battlefield and laughed, "Zilong. You're fast. When I fought the great Qi army ahead, Lu Bu, that good for nothing, snatched all the spoils. I didn't expect to get nothing here either. Looking at you guys, I might as well take my troops back to help your majesty suppress the rebellion." Hearing this, Zhao Yun smiled and said, "Who says? The people under me have almost exhausted their spiritual energy. You've come just in time. After your men arrive, help us guard the Yan country prisoners. I'll let my men recover first." Li Kunxiao smiled and shook his head, "All right. We're both elite troops, but why do I only get to do odd jobs? You know, back in the day, old Li led 18 riders to capture Chang'an. I didn't expect to only be able to do odd jobs now." Looking at the playful Li Kunxiao, Zhao Yun patted Li Kunxiao's shoulder and said, "All right. Later, I'll give you half of the peach blossom wine your majesty bestowed." "Really? Really? All right then." Just as the two were bantering, Li Kunxiao's 100,000 Xuanjia army soldiers also arrived and began maintaining discipline. During this time, some Yan army soldiers tried to escape, but they were used for target practice by the archers of the Xuanjia army and White Robe Righteous army. After a few attempts, even without someone watching them, those Yan army soldiers didn't dare to escape anymore. When night fell, Bai Qi also arrived at the scene. Looking at the Yan army soldiers kneeling in ankle-deep blood, Bai Qi frowned and said, "Men. Pass down the order to dig a pit and bury all those surrendered soldiers alive." "Yes." Following Bai Qi's order, the West Liang infantry quickly dug a large pit in the ground. After diverting all the blood into the river, Bai Qi began burying the Yan army corpses. It wasn't until the next day that the 800,000 West Liang infantry finally finished digging the giant pit. The Yan army soldiers, with their hands tied, walked into the giant pit one by one. Following Bai Qi's order, a full 400,000 Yan army soldiers were collectively buried alive. Lu Bu looked at the aura on Bai Qi, which was infinitely close to the Di Yuan realm, and clicked his tongue. After these two wars, Commander Bai is becoming more and more terrifying. Li Kunxiao also couldn't help but gasp when looking at Bai Qi, "Isn't that the truth? Honestly, when it comes to fighting desperately, among us few, Commander Bai and that guy Dian Wei are the most terrifying. Isn't that right? Commander Bai and Dian Wei, those two madmen, whoever meets them is unlucky. I'm actually curious how astonishing a battle it would be if Commander Bai and Dian Wei fought." Looking at the three men muttering to the side, Bai Qi's mouth curved into a smile, "What? You three want to spar with me?" Hearing this, Zhao Yun and the others laughed. "No, no, no. How would we dare to spar with you alone, Commander Bai? Then what are you standing around for? Hurry up and pack up and leave. Do you really want to stay here for the new year? Get lost." "Yes. Yes. We'll get lost now." Zhao Yun and the other two knew Bai Qi's terrifying attributes, and coupled with the fact that Bai Qi's cultivation was now higher than theirs, if they really fought, they might not necessarily win in a one-on-one fight. The other soldiers, seeing Bai Qi lecture Zhao Yun and the others as if they were his grandsons, couldn't help but feel a few more degrees of awe towards him in their hearts. Bai Qi watched the three men tuck their tails and run away, and couldn't help but laugh, little rascals. Can't handle you guys. After speaking, Bai Qi noticed the other soldiers looking at him as if they had seen a ghost and cursed, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and pack your things. If anyone hasn't finished packing in a quarter of an hour, 10 people will receive 50 military flogs together." The soldiers were startled by these words. They knew that Bai Qi's military discipline was very strict. When receiving military flogs, one was not allowed to resist with internal energy. Every time they were flogged, their buttocks would be beaten until the skin split and flesh tore. Therefore, all the soldiers who heard about receiving military flogs absolutely wished they could die. After Bai Qi finished writing 2 letters in the military tent, he called the 2 innate realm martial artists from the Yan country and Qi who had been left behind and said, "Take the storage bags on the table back to your kings. Inside are the letters I wrote to them. My men will follow you all the way back. Don't even think about escaping halfway. If I catch you, the consequences will be very severe." The 2 innate realm martial artists, who had long been terrified by Bai Qi's brutality, quickly said, "We wouldn't dare. We understand." Chapter 37 Sword God Sect. Chapter 37 Blade God Sect. Below Yangzhou City, Qin Tian looked at the Sun family's banner hanging on the tens of meters high city wall and smiled, saying, "It looks quite presentable." Qin Tian wore the golden Tianzi armor, held the Tianzi sword, and was surrounded by dragon energy, fully displaying his dominance. "Zhang Han, your general is here. In 15 minutes, I want to see the heads of the Sun family's house lord and all their high-ranking members." Zhang Han bowed upon hearing this and said, "Your general obeys." After speaking, Zhang Han silently disappeared from the spot. Actually, Qin Tian could have launched a direct assault on Yangzhou City, but that would result in many deaths. These were all citizens of Great Tang, and every death was a loss to Qin Tian. Dian Wei looked at Qin Tian on the imperial carriage and bowed, saying, "Your Majesty. This Yangzhou City is not simple. Judging by their aura, there are over 30 in the Dan Yuan realm, and 3 in the Di Yuan realm. Especially one of them, I'm afraid he's at the Earth Origin realm peak." Qin Tian nodded and said, "I know. That's why I had Zhang Han go in first to scout things out. I didn't expect these overseas 3 sects, who have always kept to themselves, to extend their reach so far this time, even reaching my territory. They must be after something. Is it the spiritual field? It shouldn't be. Don't get too carried away when the fighting starts later. Leave someone alive to ask them what they're doing here. Right. Where are the Yan Yun 18 riders?" The Yan Yun 18 riders were the sharp blade Qin Tian hid in the shadows. Over the years, he had cultivated the Yan Yun 18 riders regardless of cost. Now, the Yan Yun 18 riders' cultivation had reached the peak of the Dan Yuan realm, and even their warhorses had reached the Poshu realm. Even Liu Bu and his group often complained that their treatment wasn't as good as the warhorses of the Yan Yun 18 riders, which shows how much importance Qin Tian placed on the Yan Yun 18 riders. The overseas 3 sects were the Blade God Sect, King Kong Sect, and Sword God Sect. These 3 sects occupied 3 islands not far from Great Tang's territory, and the spiritual energy on the islands was second only to that of a dynasty. The strength of these 3 sects was very formidable. They had 600,000 outer disciples, over 100,000 inner disciples, and several thousand true disciples. Every year, they recruited talented disciples from several nearby countries, and the conditions for recruiting disciples were extremely strict. The requirement for recruiting disciples every year was to reach the innate realm before the age of 16. Many outstanding scions from noble families within Great Tang had joined the overseas 3 sects. It could be said that the disciples of the overseas 3 sects almost covered the aristocratic class of several major dynasties. The closer one was to the center of the Tianshuan continent, the richer the spiritual energy became. Of course, there were also many blessed lands at sea, and the island occupied by the overseas 3 sects was one of them. Great Tang, among nearly 10,000 dynasties, ranked 346th from the bottom, practically at the very bottom. Yan country and Qi, on the other hand, ranked around 1,000. The strength of the top 10 ranked dynasties was similar to that of the bottom few dynasties. The strength of the overseas 3 sects was comparable to that of a dynasty ranked around 300. Shu Chu stepped forward and said, according to the intelligence from the Brocade Guard, the Yan Yun 18 riders are still 6,000 li away from the Blade God sect and will arrive in just half a day. Qin Tian nodded and said, understood. Use a shadow jade to inform them that the overseas 3 sects can cease to exist. Yes. Your general receives the order. Shadow jade is a unique communication method on the Tianshuan continent, similar to modern mobile phones. It can only be popularized by forces ranked higher than or equal to prominent dynasties and imperial dynasties, because the price of each shadow jade is 60,000 low-grade spirit stones. A place like Great Tang Dynasty, which only produces over 1 million low-grade spirit stones annually, simply cannot afford this item. Qin Tian also reluctantly equipped every Brocade Guard commander, Shadow Guard, and some high-ranking military officials with this item. Qin Tian felt the air around him fluctuate slightly. He saw Zhang Han and the Shadow Guard behind him, each carrying several heads. Reporting to Your Majesty. Your general has not failed in his mission. I have successfully brought all the heads of the Sun family's high-ranking members. Qin Tian looked at the dozens of heads, all of which had auras of the Po Shu realm, nodded, and said, rise. You've worked hard. Yes, Your Majesty. After throwing the heads off the imperial carriage, Zhang Han silently stood behind Qin Tian. Qin Tian looked in the direction of Yangzhou City and couldn't help but curl his lips, murmuring, they've arrived. Immediately after, over 1,300 figures appeared in midair, and tens of thousands of Grandmaster realm martial artists stood on Yangzhou City's battlements. Song Tian, the great elder of the Divine Blade sect, examined Qin Tian and moved his lips slightly, saying, you are the emperor of the Great Tang Dynasty. Qin Tian half reclined on the dragon chair and said lazily, that's me. You overseas 3 sects are quite bold. How dare you covet my Great Tang Dynasty? Song Tian burst into laughter upon hearing this. Ha ha ha. A mere Great Tang Dynasty ranked outside the 9,000 dares to utter such arrogant words. If it weren't to deal with the other 3 sects, I would only need to send an outer deacon from the Dan Yuan realm to destroy your Great Tang Dynasty. Qin Tian stretched lazily and said, all right. We've exchanged pleasantries, it's time to get serious. Shu Chu. Dian Wei. Get ready. We obey. Dian Wei's eyes were full of excitement. He had been by Qin Tian's side for a long time and had never had a chance to act, almost stifling him. Normally, he greatly envied Liu Biyu and the others. Dian Wei was a bloodthirsty person, and now that he finally had a chance to strike, it made him very excited. As Shu Chu and Dian Wei slowly ascended, the Tiger Brave army behind them also stepped into the void, following them. Song Tian looked at the Tiger Brave army behind Shu Chu and Dian Wei, first slightly stunned, then laughed, not bad. 2 at the peak of the Dan Yuan realm, 16 at the early stage of the Dan Yuan realm, and 1600 at the Po Shu realm. I admit I underestimated your Great Tang Dynasty, but this is still not enough. Shu Chu pointed at the 2 elders in the late stage of the Di Yuan realm standing behind Song Tian and said, hey. You 2. What are you looking at? You 2. Yes. Just the 2 of you. 4th elder and 6th elder behind Song Tian were first bewildered, then laughed, are you sure? Shu Chu was also impatient. He was afraid Zhang Han would snatch his kills, as such good opponents were rare. So he said, yes. Just the 2 of you. Stop dawdling. Follow me. 4th elder also knew Shu Chu was not simple, but a Shu Chu at the peak of the Dan Yuan realm wasn't enough for them to take seriously. 4th elder looked at 6th elder and laughed, perfect. This old man hasn't fought in hundreds of years. Now is a good chance for me to test my skills and see if my blade has rusted. Shu Chu, who had ascended into the sky, looked at 4th elder and laughed, hey. Old man, are you looking down on me? A black-backed blade appeared in 4th elder's hand, and he said, HMPH. Ignorant brat. See if you can even take one strike from me. After speaking, 4th elder mobilized the spiritual energy within his body and swung his blade at Shu Chu. A massive blade light flew towards Shu Chu. Chapter 38, Shu Chu battles the Blade God Sect Elder. Shu Chu raised the 18-foot serpent spear in his hand to block in front of him, receiving the 4th elder's strike. Looking at the fourth elder's strike, the sixth elder nodded and said, "Fourth elder has improved quite a bit over the past few years. It seems it won't be long before he can advance to the Earth Origin Realm peak." As the blade light in the sky dissipated, Shu Chu's figure appeared before everyone. Shu Chu rested the 18-foot serpent spear on his shoulder and said, "Old man. Your strike has some heat, but it's still a bit short if you want to injure me. Come on, let's get serious." Seeing this, the fourth elder couldn't help but regard Shu Chu with a bit more seriousness. He knew that although that strike just now was a casual one, a typical Dan Yuan realm martial artist would be severely injured if not killed after taking it. "Very good. You've successfully angered me." After the fourth elder finished speaking, he began to build up power. Shu Chu watched as the fourth elder started to get serious, and his eyes began to fill with excitement. Heaven-splitting blade technique. First form. The Grandmaster Realm inner disciples standing on the city wall looked at the fourth elder actually using his famous blade technique and began to discuss animatedly, "Look. It's the fourth elder's heaven-splitting blade technique." Back then, the fourth elder, who was in the late Earth Origin Realm, managed to injure a Tian Yuan Realm expert using the heaven-splitting blade technique. You know, that was a Tian Yuan Realm. Although it was early stage, there's an insurmountable chasm between the Earth Origin Realm and the Tian Yuan Realm. That's right. Although that Dan Yuan Realm is not bad, this time he's dead for sure. After all, the fourth elder is getting serious. Song Tian looked at Qin Tian, who was still quietly lying on the dragon throne, and a sense of unease suddenly washed over him. Strange. Too strange. This great Tang Emperor had been terrifyingly quiet from the moment he first saw him, and there wasn't a trace of reverence in his eyes. Suddenly, Song Tian seemed to have thought of something and roared, "Fourth elder. Be careful." Shu Chu looked at the fourth elder's attack and excitedly licked his lips. As a peerless martial general, he could naturally fight across realms. However, without activating his talent, Shu Chu could at most spar with early Earth Origin Realm experts. To defeat an early Earth Origin Realm expert, he would still have to pay a certain price. As for killing one, that was out of the question. There was an insurmountable chasm between each major realm. This wasn't the kind of brainless, feel-good novel Qin Tian had read in his previous life where a young junior could leap several major realms and kill off older experts. In this Tianquan continent, being able to defeat an expert one major realm higher than oneself was already the limit. After all, there was an irreconcilable gap in origin between the two. Shu Chu looked at the attack coming towards him and directly activated his talent skill. Boom! Shu Chu swept his spear and directly exploded the fourth elder's attack, laughing, "The strength is not bad." By the time Song Tian's words reached the fourth elder's ears, it was already too late. Shu Chu directly flashed in front of the fourth elder and swept his spear horizontally. The fourth elder, who hadn't reacted yet, subconsciously blocked the attack with his blade in front of his chest, narrowly saving his life. The fourth elder, who was swept away by Shu Chu's spear, directly penetrated several mountain peaks, carving out a gohi in the ground dozens of meters deep and 3 miles long. Fourth elder. Song Tian and the sixth elder shouted at the same time. Cough, cough, cough. I was careless. As the dust settled, the fourth elder swallowed a pill and flew back into the air, looking at Shu Chu and saying, "Earth Origin Realm Peak. Special physique." Seeing this, the sixth elder immediately flew up to support the fourth elder. Just as Song Tian was about to move, Dian Wei flashed in front of Song Tian and said, "Your opponent is me." Song Tian looked at Dian Wei in front of him. At this moment, even if he was stupid, he knew that Dian Wei was not simple and must also be someone with a special physique. Thinking of this, Song Tian's mouth was full of bitterness. He really hadn't expected that special physiques, which even those empires and first-grade sects only had a few of, could be seen twice in this great Tang Dynasty. No. It was 3 times. Thinking of this, Song Tian sized up Zhang Han, who was standing behind Qin Tian, wearing a fitted black armor and with a black blade hanging from his waist. His intuition told him that this person was definitely not simple. Now, Song Tian was starting to regret coveting the great Tang Dynasty. For this non-existent mid-grade spiritual veins, he was sacrificing almost a quarter of the sect's fighting strength. Blade God sect disciples, listen up. Kill. Following Song Tian's order, all the Blade God sect disciples charged towards the Imperial Guards. The Tiger Brave Army, In units of 10, condensed military souls and transformed into 160 Dan Yuan realm peak demonic tigers, killing towards those Po Shu realm and Dan Yuan realm martial artists. The battlefield for the Dan Yuan realm and Po Shu realm was in the sky, so it didn't have much impact on the Grandmaster realm battlefield below. Looking at the tens of thousands of Grandmaster realm martial artists getting closer, Zhang Han shouted, "Cloud." Following Zhang Han's command, all the soldiers took down the bows and arrows mounted on their backs, and the demon-breaking ballistas were all ready to fire. Rain. Woo woo woo. With a command from Zhang Han, hundreds of thousands of sharp arrows mixed with tens of thousands of demon-breaking arrows flew towards the tens of thousands of Grandmaster army. Although the arrows shot by the Imperial Guards, whose average cultivation was in the Hautian realm, would not have much impact on a single Grandmaster realm martial artist, the impact was different when there were many of them. And the demon-breaking ballistas were enough to cause damage to Po Shu realm martial artists. This was something Qin Tian had spent nearly 4 million low-grade spirit stones to equip the entire Imperial Guards with. The pupils of the Blade God sect disciples couldn't help but shrink as they looked at the arrows flying all over the sky. Immediately after, they all condensed protective chi shields to protect themselves, but this seemed so futile in the face of a volley from 40 million soldiers. This was why martial artists could never shake an army. The first volley took away 3,000 people, and then the second volley was even better. The disciples of the Blade God sect were now filled with despair in their eyes. After more than a dozen volleys under Zhang Han's command, only over 6,000 Grandmaster realm martial artists remained on the battlefield. The disciples of the Blade God sect usually looked down on the ordinary martial artists of those dynasties the most, but now they realized that their so-called battles from before were just street fights in front of a real army. Fighting and warfare were completely different things. They couldn't even withstand a few volleys from the great Tang Imperial Guards, and the most ironic thing was that the martial artists in those armies were only Hautian realm martial artists. Their tens of thousands of Grandmaster realm experts were slaughtered like pigs in front of them. Looking at the rain of arrows flying towards them again, the disciples of the Blade God sect were scared out of their wits and shouted, "Wait! We surrender! Ah! Why are you still shooting? We surrender! Stop shooting! We surrender!" Zhang Han looked at the gradually decreasing number of Blade God sect disciples on the field and paused the attack. Demon-breaking ballistas advance. Level shot. When the disciples of the Blade God sect saw that the rain of arrows in the sky had stopped, they couldn't help but sigh and say, "We surrender. Stop shooting." But the next second, they were in despair. Chapter 39 The Blade God Sect's Supreme Elder. As the Imperial Guards pushed the 4,000 demon-breaking ballistae to the front of the formation, the disciples of the Blade God sect watched the chillingly sharp demon-breaking ballista bolts, swallowing with difficulty, cold sweat breaking out on their foreheads, standing rooted to the spot, not daring to move. At the end of their rope, they knew that even at their peak strength, they couldn't escape the pursuit of the demon-breaking ballistae, and they had already witnessed the power of the demon-breaking ballistae just now. The protective shields erected by dozens of Grandmaster realm martial artists could be directly pierced by the demon-breaking ballistae with just 2 shots, and the demon-breaking ballista bolts as thick as a baby's arm strung together a group of Grandmaster realm Blade God sect disciples like skewers. In fact, the main cause of the casualties among the Blade God sect disciples was the demon-breaking ballistae. The archers' volleys were merely to suppress their movements, and one ballista could fire 4 bolts, a single volley being over 10,000 bolts. Song Tian watched the Blade God sect disciples falling non-stop, his heart burning with anxiety, because those who were still alive were the elite disciples of the Blade God sect, some of whom had extraordinary backgrounds. This time, Song Tian had brought almost all the elite disciples from within the sect, mainly because he wanted to focus on cultivating them, but he hadn't expected this gilded journey to turn into a sheer hell. If these people were to perish here, then their Blade God sect would surely face a talent gap. Song Tian shouted at Qin Tian, "Qin Tian! Stop! These are all the elite disciples of my Blade God sect. If something happens to them, several Tian Yuan realm supreme elders of my Blade God sect will surely come to the great Tang Dynasty to take your dog's life." Dian Wei snorted coldly, "HMPH. You dare to be distracted while fighting me. Die." Dian Wei seized a weak point in Song Tian's defense and directly kicked Song Tian into the ground. If it weren't for Qin Tian's request to spare his life, Song Tian would already be a dead man. Qin Tian frowned when he saw that Song Tian actually dared to threaten him and said, Shu Chu. Are you still going to keep playing? Shu Chu looked at the fourth elder and sixth elder and sneered, hee hee. Gentlemen, I can't play with you anymore. Your Majesty is starting to get a little impatient waiting. I'll send you on your way first. Break. Destroy. Kill. A surge of extremely powerful aura suddenly erupted from Shu Chu's body, and Shu Chu threw his Zongba snake spear into the sky, transforming it into over 100 spears. Not good. Let's work together to block it. The sixth elder looked at the unavoidable attack and quickly said. Boom. Just as the fourth elder finished speaking, Shu Chu's attack had already arrived. As the smoke and dust dissipated, the fourth elder and sixth elder lay in the large hole that had been blasted out, blood flowing from their chests. Shu Chu looked at the fourth elder and sixth elder, who were still alive, and shook his head. Tisk tisk. Not dead yet. I'm sorry. I haven't done this in so long, I'm a bit rusty, I didn't control my strength well. I originally wanted to leave you with intact bodies, but I didn't expect to not kill you. Wait, I'll free you now. The military souls condensed by the Tiger Brave army in the sky were wreaking havoc among a group of Po Shu Realm Blade God Sect disciples. The original 30-odd Dan Yuan Realm Blade God Sect outer elders were all dead, leaving only a few hundred Po Shu Realm Blade God Sect disciples still struggling. It wouldn't be long before this group of Blade God Sect disciples would also be completely annihilated. Without exaggeration, the fighting strength of the Blade God Sect disciples is still very strong, but they lacked coordination among themselves. Otherwise, it would have been quite difficult for the Tiger Brave army to take them down. The disciples of the Blade God Sect all cultivated the path of fierceness and dominance, so even though they knew they were no match, they did not retreat, because once they retreated, their martial Dao path would come to an end. Zhang Han looked at the slightly impatient Qin Tian and knew it was time to end it. Rain. Following Zhang Han's command, nearly 20,000 demon-breaking ballista bolts were directly fired at the Blade God Sect disciples. Just as those demon-breaking ballistae were about to reach the Blade God Sect disciples, a sigh was heard, and a Blade God Sect disciple looked at the demon-breaking ballista that stopped right in front of him, instantly scared to pee, followed by a suction force that pulled them into the sky. Trying to save people from our hands, aren't you looking down on us, the Tiger Brave twin heroes? Following Shu Chu's roar, a crimson flame demon tiger with a cultivation level also at the Earth Origin Realm peak appeared behind him. After Shu Chu shattered the suction force, he grabbed the necks of the fourth elder and sixth elder, who had lost their ability to move, and threw them into the ranks of the Imperial Guards. Dian Wei, on the other hand, kicked Song Tian, who had been sucked into the air, down. Seeing this, the Imperial Guards quickly stepped forward and suppressed Song Tian and the other two. HMPH. Hiding your head and tail. After Dian Wei finished speaking, he swung his frost halberd, and the figure of an old man appeared in the clouds. Zhang Han, who was behind Qin Tian, had disappeared from his original position at some point. In the end, I was still a step late. Tang Emperor. Stop. This time, our Blade God Sect admits defeat. The disciples of the Blade God Sect shouted when they saw the old man. Look. The Supreme Elder is here to save us. Qin Tian frowned as he examined the Tian Yuan realm mid-stage old man in a white robe. Shu Chu and Dian Wei looked at the old man in the sky and angrily said, Tiger Brave Army, where are you? Immediately after, 1,600 Tiger Brave Army soldiers stood neatly behind Shu Chu and Dian Wei, an extremely powerful aura brewing. The old man looked at the Tiger Brave army, his eyes narrowing. All right. Your subordinates are already pretty much exhausted, and with your current state, you can't keep me. I didn't expect an army capable of condensing military souls to appear in this great Tang. This time, our Blade God Sect admits defeat. After saying that, the old man summoned a flying ship and put all the disciples onto the ship. Tang Emperor. Can you return our Blade God Sect's elders to me? Our Blade God Sect will withdraw immediately. As for the deaths of the other disciples, we will not pursue the matter. Qin Tian, who had not spoken, suddenly burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. The Blade God Sect's Supreme Elder, is it? What do you think my great Tang is? You can come and go as you please. Tang Emperor, I think you also know that with your current strength, You can't keep me, right? Qin Tian heard this and smiled. I know. But aren't you afraid that I will lead a large army to the Blade God sect and exterminate you later? The Blade God sect's supreme elder heard this and laughed. Ha ha. I'm really not afraid of that. Your military souls can't threaten our Blade God sect. Although your military souls are powerful, our Blade God sect is not to be trifled with either. As a fourth grade sect, our Blade God sect has 10 Tian Yuan Realm Supreme Elders. Over 100 D Yuan Realm Inner Elders. Over 6,000 Dan Yuan Realm Outer Elders. Although our fourth grade sect cannot compare to those dynasties, it is not something that your mere Great Tang can threaten. With just these two armies with military souls, you can't make any waves in front of our Blade God sect. Qin Tian heard this and immediately laughed. Who told you that we only have two armies with military souls? Have your overseas three sects been too comfortable these past years? Chapter 40. Frightened Li Zan. Qin Tian stood up, looked at the Blade God sect's supreme elder, and said, You came uninvited and incited my citizens to rebel within my Great Tang territory. Do you think your majesty is a soft persimmon that you can knead as you please? Do you think your majesty should let you go? The Blade God sect's supreme elder laughed upon hearing this. Ha ha. No way. Who told our Blade God sect to be stronger than you? Besides, you killed so many of our Blade God sect's disciples, and I haven't even bothered to settle accounts with you. You should feel fortunate now. Actually, I just saved your lives, because among those Grand Master Realm disciples just now was the Ice God Valley's Valley Master's daughter. The Ice God Valley, as a first-grade sect on the continent, if you harm even a single hair on her head, then tomorrow, your great Tang Dynasty will disappear from this Tianshuan continent. Upon hearing this, Qin Tian couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If what the old man said was true, then Qin Tian would most likely have to pack up and run away. Of course, he knew about the Ice God Valley. The current Valley Master of the Ice God Valley was a fierce expert in the martial god realm. If he really harmed his daughter, Qin Tian wouldn't have 100 lives to spare. There were a total of 9 first-grade forces and 4 super first-grade forces on the Tianshuan continent. The 9 first-grade forces were the Heavenly Dao Sect, Heaven Sword Holy Domain, Taishu Sect, Brahman Sect, Ice God Valley, Divine Profound Sect, Misty Moon Immortal Palace, Earth Spirit Sect, and Divine Wood Sect. The 4 super first-grade forces were the Dan Alliance, Array Alliance, Weapon Alliance, and Puppet Alliance. However, even so, Qin Tian didn't plan to back down. He could spare the Ice God Valley's Valley Master's daughter, but it was absolutely impossible for the Blade God sect's people to just leave like this. Hee. Is that your last dying wish? The Blade God sect's supreme elder first frowned upon hearing this, then his many years of sensing danger made him instinctively dodge to the side. The next second, a black short blade sliced through the surface of his neck, and blood soaked his collar. The Blade God sect's supreme elder, Li Zan, instinctively slashed to the left with the saber in his hand, but he didn't hit anything. When he turned his head to look at the flying ship, all the Po Shu realm disciples had already been beheaded. Seeing this scene, Li Zan's back was instantly drenched in cold sweat. Li Zan unleashed his full aura and powerful divine sense, searching for any trace of Zhang Han within a radius of several hundred miles. But what made him feel terrified was that he couldn't find even a single trace. Li Zan, who had traversed the world for many years, felt fear for the first time, because if it weren't for his years of combat experience just now, he would have already died. And the most terrifying thing was that those Grandmaster Realm disciples still hadn't realized that all the Po Shu Realm disciples behind them were already dead. Qin Tian looked at Li Zan, who was facing a formidable enemy, and laughed, hee. Your Blade God sect isn't as powerful as I imagined. Those Po Shu Realm disciples of yours didn't even have a chance to resist in the hands of my subordinates before they were all killed. A Blade God sect disciple smelled the bloodthirst and instinctively turned to look behind him. The next second, he was scared to pee by the scene that met his eyes. He saw that the Po Shu Realm disciples who were originally standing behind them had been killed by someone at some point, and even their heads were missing, yet they hadn't noticed at all. Senior brother. That Blade God sect disciple tugged at a Blade God sect disciple beside him and stammered. Junior brother. Why are you pulling me? Ah. Dead. All dead. The other Blade God sect disciples all turned to look behind them, and many of the Blade God sect disciples were scared limp by this scene. Even the Ice God Valley's daughter, Bing Yuyan, was scared pale by the scene before her eyes. She was the Ice God Valley's Valley Master's daughter. With her perspective, she naturally knew that even the most top-tier assassination organizations on the entire Tianshuan continent couldn't achieve what she saw before her, unless those Tianyuan realm gold medal assassins were dispatched. Li Zan looked at Qin Tian nervously and said, "What do you want?" Qin Tian lazily lay on the chair, playing with the 2 low-grade spirit stones in his hand, and said, "What do I want? How about this? Let's make a bet. Do you have the life to walk out of Great Tang alive? If you win the bet, I'll let your Blade God sect go. If you lose, it seems you don't have anything you can give me. After all, by then, your Blade God sect should have already been annihilated by my subordinates. Just consider it, your majesty being bored and playing with you. After all, your overseas 3 sects ran to your majesty's territory and caused trouble so brazenly, and it's no small matter, so your majesty can only reluctantly annihilate you." Li Zan's expression changed drastically upon hearing this. If it were just now, he would have certainly scoffed at Qin Tian's words. However, after the Shadow Guard showed their hand, he didn't doubt the truth of Qin Tian's words in the slightest at this moment. Because he was lucky to have escaped that attack just now. If it happened again, he had no confidence at all that he could avoid it. Moreover, if Qin Tian really made a move on them, only 3 people in the entire Blade God sect could escape, but those 3 people all had cultivations above the late Tianyuan realm. As for the others, they could only rely on luck. Just as Qin Tian was looking at Li Zan playfully, a brocade guard ran up to Qin Tian and knelt down, saying, "Reporting to your majesty. General Guan and Lord Zug have already quelled the unrest. The remnants of the Blade God sect and King Kong sect have been captured. General Guan and Lord Zug are bringing the main culprits here and will arrive shortly. General Bai Qi has sent word that the Yanqi allied forces in the empire's north border have all been annihilated. A total of 2 million enemy troops were wiped out in this battle. 1,200,000 were captured. General Bai Qi buried 80,000 Great Qi army troops alive in pits, and the 400,000 captured Yan army troops were also buried alive." Qin Tian couldn't help but laugh upon hearing this. This Bai Qi still hasn't changed that old habit. "Very good. You may leave." Li Zan's face changed upon hearing that the teams from the other 2 sects had all been annihilated, saying, "How is that possible?" The Blade God sect disciples were shocked by Bai Qi burying 1,200,000 people alive. One must know that those were people. One must know that some of them might not have even seen that many people in their entire lives. The Blade God sect disciples were now regretting so much that their intestines turned green. Wasn't this great Tang Dynasty ranked at the bottom? Why was its strength so fierce? And what kind of people were under this Tang Emperor's command? Every single one of them was so ruthless. Seeing this, Qin Tian couldn't help but laugh. How is it not possible? You should first think about how to leave Great Tang alive. At the same time, the Yanyun 18 riders arrived before the Blade God sect. Yanda looked down at the Blade God sect below, mobilized his spiritual energy, and said, "Blade God sect disciples, listen. You have 1 stick of incense's time to evacuate. Half an hour later will be the time of your Blade God sect's demise. Any disciple who has not evacuated the Blade God sect by then will be executed." After saying this, the Yanyun 18 riders directly activated the Yanyun array. The aura of 18 Tian Zan realm mid-stage experts raged around them, stirring up endless fierce winds. Immediately, the alarm bells rang loudly, and the elders who were in seclusion were all startled. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.